I'm Michael Conti, driver of the number 5 4Front Chevy, and you're watching iRacing Live.
Live tonight from the Kansas Speedway, the NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series returns to the 1.5 milers, where from Kansas Speedway, we dropped the green flag for the 6th time on 2018. Just 2 weeks ago, Ray Alfalla snapped a 2-race win streak by Ryan Luza, and the 3-time series champion has gone back to the top spot in the championship standings as we close it on the halfway point of the regular season. We're racing under the lights tonight from Kansas City. And before we get underway, we'll take a look at this week's iRacing race recap from 2 weeks ago at Richmond on round number 5.
We're glad you could be with us for round number 5 of the NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Ryan Luza looking for 3 in a row on the front row. Pace car is off and Ryan Luza is gone. Green flag flies. We're underway at the Richmond Raceway. Taylor Hurst looking to the inside of Bobby Zielinski as they drive it down into corner number 1. Hurst looks to have position number 2. They're piling it down into the corner, and it looks like Ray Alfalla in the 2 has found something. He's rolling the top. He's made the spot up on the 34 of Matt Busa, trying to get to the inside by the looks of it, trying not to get stuck behind Zielinski, but the 34 of Busa continues to slide in on that inside to battle with the 2 of Alfalla. Could they go 3 wide off corner number 2? Absolutely they will. Down into corner number 3, Zielinski will give up the outside line. He'll give up 2 spots, and Ray Alfalla continuing to roll the top. A colossal confrontation up in front of the field with the 5 of Conti to the outside of the 2 of Alfalla. 2 drivers that have had success here before at the Richmond Raceway. Alfalla's won a couple of races. Conti's led a ton of laps here. Conti looking to get to victory lane and bring it home for the Chaos crew. There's still a long way to go. We're 2 laps shy of the halfway point, but to the top of the board goes Michael Conti. Conti will lead it. Alfalla continues to work that inside line. He waited for the door to open on the inside, and Ray Alfalla trying to complete this pass and go to lead. Busa gets a great run on that top line at a corner number 4. Will be even with Ray going down into corner number 1. Ray Alfalla up the racetrack a little bit, and here comes Luza. Luza looking to be a part of the battle, and Keegan Leahy as well. Oh, boys, we have a battle on our hands here at Richmond, this time by 7 laps to go.
It's a 10-lap tire difference, Randy. You said Ray had the freshest. You are indeed correct. Also, Leahy on the same tire strategy as the 2, but Busa hanging tough. More contact up the road goes Busa. He'll lose 1st and 2nd and falls back to 4th.
Caution. I think that's going to end it.
What might have been for Matt Busa led a lot of laps late in this one, but passed late by Ray Alfalla, and Alfalla will come up out of corner number 4 behind the pace car, and the Virtual Racing School Ford Fusion will take the checkered flag and his first win of the 2018 NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series.
Oh, that was late.
Hey guys! This week, the 6 on my team are Truex, Logano, Larson, Blaney, Chase, and Suarez. For the rest of you, better luck next week.
She's missing out, dude.
Yeah.
The all-new NASCAR Fantasy Live. Visit nascar.com/fantasy and build your team today.
The road to $10,000 marches through the Sunflower State, where tonight on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live, the NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series takes on the Kansas Speedway for race number 6 on this 2018 championship. Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to tonight's Kansas 250, alongside with Randy Cheneth and Tim Terry, myself, Evan Kosoko, with you in the RaceSpot TV booth. Downstairs, as always, Hugo Luis, Twisted and Tweaked at Isles, and bringing us to you this evening as we continue to march on into 2018. Set it right at the top 10. It was just 2 weeks ago at Richmond. Ray Alfala snagging the win on the short track side of things. Snapped that 2-race win streak for Ryan Luza that spanned Fontana and Las Vegas. And it's got 3-time at the top of the championship standings coming into tonight.
And Ray has been so gosh darn consistent this season. At the top of the standings, Ryan Luza sits second, but Ryan Luza is not on our list right now when it comes to this race here this evening, so that's something to keep track of. These drivers do have one drop before they hit the playoffs, so he'll have the benefit of that. Keegan Leahy, Bobby Zielinski, Michael Conti, Logan Clampett on down. We've only raced this racetrack once in the NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series history. Nick Ottinger went to Victory Lane, but that was all the way back in 2013. This one should be interesting tonight.
Looking to see if we can get a first-time winner at Kansas, and alluding to the fact that we do see a good bit of these intermediate racetracks on the calendar, Randy, just having one in Vegas tonight, of course. Next time out going to be at Charlotte, another one of those 1.5 milers, and they all do have some certain characteristics that make all of them unique, but I'm not sure if there's an intermediate racetrack more unique than this Kansas Speedway. Looks like a lot of the other tracks. It's fun because we're racing under the lights tonight, so that'll also play a factor in how this racetrack drives, but even if you're just kind of casually looking in on these drivers warming up down below as they get set to go trackside and go racing, you're going to notice those race cars are way up top. You don't run any other immediate racetracks like you do this one.
Yeah, the progressive banking here at Kansas is so unique. The fact that you can run up along the top side of the wall, pretty much where you find the speed at this racetrack. So expect a lot of concrete racing tonight. But what I'm curious of is if we get a long enough green flag run, how will that affect the cars and how will it affect that racing line? We saw at Richmond a couple weeks ago. Normally the bottom of that place is where you want to be, but after about 100 or so laps of racing, that fast line actually moved up to the middle lane of the racetrack. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities if we get a long enough green flag run. Now those middle and lower grooves might be where some people start going just to experiment and find some speed.
Start to spread down the racetrack as opposed to where you would tend to see that line to go up. Tim, you talked about the points. Alfala into tonight 6 points ahead of Ryan Luza, who is not currently in the session at the moment, which obviously going to work very much against him. Again, ultimate objective with the playoff format just to stay top 10, so I don't think it's going to be a critical factor in his season, but still worth noting. Keegan Leahy's there as well, the likes of Bobby Zielinski, Michael Conti, Clampett, Ottinger, Busa, Davies, Shelton, all the way through the top 10. We're starting to get a good look at how these drivers have figured things out so far this year, but this is not a racetrack that you're going to be able to get away with many mistakes. You make a mistake going down to the bottom of the racetrack, sure, you might push up and it sucks, but you got a lot of asphalt up there to work with. You make a mistake here, you're into the outside wall, and that's not something that anybody's going to want to afford. And of course, over the course of 167 laps way up top, that's a lot of opportunities to make a mistake.
You keep the car clean over 167 laps. Make sure you're there at the end of the race and try to capitalize and make sure this isn't your drop race for the playoffs, for the contention for the playoffs. It's going to be a long road to that, and you saw some names just outside that top 10 when we looked at that graphic. There's some heavy hitters out there, too, that are looking to make a mark. We'll see if they can do it here tonight at Kansas.
Looks like the practice session just now drawing down to a close, and we get set to go racing from Kansas for the first time since 2013. 5 races complete so far this year. We've seen Nick Ottinger, Keegan Leahy, Ryan Luza with 2, and Ray Alfalla find victory lane. We'll see if we can add another name to that list as we go trackside. Let's take a look at tonight's RaceSpot TV starting grid. Logan Clampett is going to lead the field of 34 to the American Ethanol Green Flag tonight. His 28.653 was the only driver to get down into that 0.6 category. He'll bring us to the Green Flag, accompanied on the front row by second place starter, the 11 of Colton Davis. The 9 of Philip Diaz going to start 3rd position. Speaking of Nick Ottinger, he's right there in 4th position. He wants to keep this one in the family and become the only winner still at Kansas, looking for a second tonight. He'll roll off outside of row 2. Just behind him, Brad Davies, P9 in the points, looking to get a win on the year, is in top 5.
We got Zach Novak on the outside of that row, right outside of Brad Davies, Ray Alfalla, and Jimmy Mullis, your next row, and completing your top 10. Great qualifying effort for Michael Guesting. Keegan Leahy has been quick all season long. He'll roll from 10th.
All of the Simucube racing cars qualified really well tonight. Nolan Scott is going to roll off 11th with Casey Kerwin in 12th, Matt Busa in 13th, Casey Tucker 14th, and Marcus Richardson. He runs out your top 15.
We'll be joined by Bobby Zelensky. They're going to make up the inside and outside of row 8. Taylor Hurst, Christian Challoner starts 17th and 18th, and then back on row 10. Chris Overland rolls from P19. Brendan Pitbrass rounds out through 20th.
Nick Shelton and Chris Shearburn, your next row. Michael Conti will have to come through halfway the pack in 23rd. 24th, David Rattler and Andrew Fash, the 3rd, 25th.
Corey Vincent's going to roll off 26th with Jarl Tien alongside him. Blake Reynolds, Alex Bergeron at 28th, 29th with Joe Letterello in 30th. Brian Schoenberg, Ryan Lowe, Jake Sturgios, and Adam Gilliland round out the 34-car field.
Look top to bottom at your RaceSpot TV starting grid. 1.5 miles around the Kansas Speedway. After 167 laps, we'll go 250 miles on distance. This evening, this racetrack, as noted, progressive banking. It makes it so unique. 17 degrees down low, but 20 degrees up top of the quarters is why you'll see drivers way up there. Also watch that flat apron on the front stretch. It's something else that'll be a factor on a lot of these restarts. But as always, we're happy that you're spending a Tuesday night with us on RaceSpot TV in iRacing Live. Pace car down and in, and no hesitation from your pole sitter. Logan Clampett is gone. We're racing in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series from Kansas. The 46 car easily into turn 1.
Davis a little slow to the draw. He'll go to the inside of Phil Diaz, who goes up the racetrack, and Zach Novak will look to the inside, try to make it 3 wide, maybe out of 2. No, he falls back into line behind. But Colton Davis and Phil Diaz, look at those 2 cars. Great qualifying effort by those 2. They go side by side as they try to fight for position number 2.
15 to machine definitely thought about it, but you see tucked back up in line. This is going to allow Clampett to pull a good little bit of distance, 4/10 advantage at the line. You're seeing the 11 of Davis on the inside. That's actually the driver who started outside of the front row in second. He's gotten pinched down low. Diaz going to make the pass, and Zach Novak on that preferred lane as well. All over the back of the 9. Ford follows through as well. The car who started in second falls to 5th because look at Ray Alfalla on the inside. He's not going to have the speed off the corner. Thinks about a slide job, and he'll do it. Ray Alfalla aggressive out of the gate.
You have to be aggressive at this racetrack, especially when you can make a move stick down low. The way that 2 machine of Alfalla did, he knew he had to block that line. He did everything he could to do so and move him up to 4th. Really surprised to see the 11 of Colton Davis falling the way he is. But I think the slip angle car is going to be really quick in race trim. They all qualified decently well, and they were some of the quickest in the practice session. And Alfalla, he's already moving up early, already on the back of that number 9 of Diaz.
Now Fallon working on the inside and the outside. You see the 9 car down on that flat part of the racetrack. Lost a lot of speed off of the corner after Diaz brushed the outside wall, and it puts him way out of line. Now Fallon's going to go. The 13 of Davies, and here they all come. The 11 of Davis, the 27 of Mullis, the 24 of Leahy, and the 05 of Nick Ottinger. One mistake is going to cost Philip Diaz at least 6 positions. It might be 7 more because here comes the 54 of Michael Guest topside, who's got his number as well.
Yeah, he still has the anchor out. The 14 of Casey Kerwin going to work the outside of Phil Diaz. It's one small mistake, as you mentioned, and that'll cost you. He stops the bleeding right in front of Nolan Scott. Scott almost gets into the back of him a little bit, but for the most part there, it looks like the bleeding has stopped. They're side by side behind. Chalner, who had a great run at Richmond, looking to possibly make it 3 wide. There's the 16 of Nolan Scott up top, and the 1 of Marcus Richardson battling for the spot.
And a battle for the race lead all the way up front. Logan Clampett got out to that good half a second advantage, but Zach Novak has been the one really putting the heat down. He and Alfala have jumped up from 6th and 7th on the grid to 2nd and 3rd on the racetrack, and Novak is working on that inside line. So dead even center of the corner. Right there, though, off is where that outside is so good. Novak can't get the speed to match the 46, and he will tuck in line for the moment. But Novak and Clampett, a second in front of everybody else at the 15, tries it again, side by side for the race lead at lap 6.
We had drama in the back as well coming off turn 2. I think it was the 16 of Nolan Scott. Got into it with someone and cars were fanning out 3 wide everywhere. Zach Novak, though, he made the move coming off 4, and he actually led that lap at the line. So who says you can't make the bottom or the middle work here at Kansas? Can move that 15 to the top as he takes the lead down the back straightaway. Logan Clampett falls to 2nd, back of car length.
Lead change happened at the line. Novak just barely inched it out to complete lap number 6. But now Zach Novak is completely clearing through, and he's at the race lead in this one. Nice and early on. His Clampett going to have to settle for falling back to 2nd. And you still have that pretty big gap back to Ray Alfala. He's fun in 3rd, but there's a lot of fun for 4th. Keegan Leahy. Look at that drive on the inside. He'll slot up, try to take that outside line away. And 13 to Brad Davies can't counter it. So nice move by Leahy. He's already up 6 positions, so a lot going on inside of the top 10 as the 24 machine takes over 4.
You mentioned those drivers missing the mark a little bit in qualifying compared to where we're used to seeing them inside the top 5. Guys like Keegan Leahy, Ray Alfala, and Zach Novak as the 24 looks after the 2 one more time down into corner number 1, making his way towards the front of the field, goes to the inside, tries to make that bottom line work. The 2 of Alfala will get the run out of the corner. Keegan Leahy trying to pull even with him, can't get there. We'll see what he can do down here into corner number 3.
So side by side for these couple of fights. That 24 machine of Leahy's down low at Alfala, and behind you're also seeing that's the 27 of Mullis down low on Brad Davies. So 3rd and 4th up for grabs, and 5th and 6th up for grabs as well. Alfala outside, a better place to be. Same story behind. Davies using the outside to use that defensive line. However, we saw Novak get the race lead away from Clampett down low, so Randy nothing saying that these cars at the bottom can't get it done. You just have to time it very good, and it is looking like that slide job move is going to be the one you have to make. Watch the 24, goes low, short away around the racetrack. He's not going to have the speed, so he'll come up, take the lane away from Alfala, and another beautifully executed move of the 24. 2 passes on the inside. He's now in 3rd.
I think this racetrack is a lot racier than a lot of people thought it was going to be. I know a lot of the drivers are likely worried about single groove racing up around the top side of the racetrack, but through the first 11 laps, we've seen the bottom and middle be available for drivers to make a move. You have to be aggressive with it. It's not like passing on a typical racetrack here in this Peak Antifreeze iRacing series, but you still have to be very, very quick in order to get it done. The 24, Keegan Leahy, though, has already blitzed away from that 2 of Ray Alfala. Speaking of blitzing away, that 15 is Zach Novak. He's had the race lead about 4 laps, already out to 1.5 second lead over the 46 of Clampett. So lockdown definitely has something underneath them as Novak continues to stretch the gap.
Clampett, Leahy, Alfala, everybody running lap times just above that 30-second benchmark. It was still a 29.7 for Zach Novak the last time by. He is flying out in front of the field. Battling still good on top 10, but single file between Alfala, Davies, and Mullis, and even the 11 of Colton Davis wants to jump into the mix as well. Michael Guest and Casey Kerwin have been fighting. They got together last time by and really hurt Guest, who drops back to 13th. Look at this now, 2 wide. And thinking about maybe some more. That's the 78 way down low of Challenger trying to get into the picture. Looks like we're off of a restart here. 3 sets of 2x2 down the back.
And when Kerwin got by Michael Guest after that little contact, Guest slapped the wall the last time by here at corner number 4. So he's falling back a little bit. Here comes Pipgrass in the 29, trying to make a move on Michael Guest. Guest trying to stop the bleeding a little bit here and try to pick up a couple more positions that he lost a couple laps ago. We saw the speed shots a couple of times here, Evan. The top 10 or so, they're single file, they're picking up passes. There's little nervous energy right now outside the top 10, as you see it right here. Pipgrass trying to make a move on Guest. You got Chalner, you got Bobby Zielinski, who had a very interesting week at the Richmond Raceway. A little bit of nervous energy, per se, around here as we work lap 15.
Oh, there's going to be contact with the 83 machine. The 34 of Busa hangs on. Still sideways, and he's going to get the 5, and there they go. It's It's Conti up into the outside wall. More traffic trying to come through, and there is finally the caution flag at lap number 15. That all started way back in turn 4, and I thought they maybe were going to be able to get away with that one. It was the fight that we were watching, and you'll get a second look on the replay angle here. The 29 machine, I think it was, of Brandon Pipgrass got checked up off the quarter. Zelensky had the lift, and he's the one that got Busa all kinds of sideways. That was the black and red 34 you saw there, and he was going all over the racetrack trying to hang on. And unfortunately for Michael Conti, Tim, he eventually got to get up and off the apron to make the corner, so he had to come up the racetrack. That's exactly where Busa was going. You'll see Conti here, down 2 tires into the grass, almost clear, and right there he gets tagged, and he's the one who ends up getting the worst of it.
I just mentioned that Zelensky had a tough week last week, Randy. We saw him bouncing off cars trying to get through wrecks, and I don't know if I want to jinx him or not, but he dodged one there. He got a little bit of damage out of that one, though.
Yeah, he did. I think the main driver to really focus on has been having a string of bad luck. It's actually that 5 of Conti. We've seen Michael in position potentially win races and have quick cars as far this season. And, well, I think this is the 3rd or 4th race he finds himself going out early on. So 5 of Michael Conti, just sort of wrong place, wrong time, was nowhere near his fault. And really the way he got hung up in that incident is that the incident was basically over. The 34 Busa, though, is trying to save the car, was bringing it back up on the racetrack, and as he transitioned off the apron, car just kicked out from underneath him and slid him back down to the bottom, and he just tagged the 5 enough to spin him up into the wall. So I think right now, if anyone, I think the worst luck thus far this season, Evan, has to go to that 5 of Conti.
A tough break there. He was really nothing to do with the fight that was even going on. He was behind it. He's really the only driver to get torn up in that one. Drivers down pit road. 4 tires going to be the name of the game. You see the order off of pit road on the left-hand side of your screen. Zach Novak comes in first, and he will exit in first position as well. Clampett, no changes. Alfala does get a spot. So does Davies, as Keegan Leahy drops a few and ends up in the number 5 position coming off of the pit lane. But look like everybody in agreement, at least on what that strategy call should have been, because everybody down pit road that time at lap 16, not a single soul dared to stay out.
Yeah, pretty status quo pit stop for the 15 of Zach Novak. Clean in, clean out, and will come out with that lead position looking for that first win of the season. Zach has shown a lot of speed here this year, and we'll see if he can finally get the monkey off his back and win at this Kansas Speedway. As we mentioned, only one time before that we've been here, and it was Nick Ottinger going to victory lane, and Ottinger obviously started off the season well and looking to rebound a little bit. Had a good run going last week or 2 weeks ago at Richmond, and the Chaos crew really didn't have a good race per se at their home racetrack, but you look here tonight, Logan Clampett's running in second. You got Nick Ottinger, Jimmy Mullis, Marcus Richardson all in the top 10, so far so good for the Chaos crew.
Not the first time either that they've had a couple of good nights so far this year. Of course, a long way to go. We're pacing at lap number 18 of 167. I'll tell you what, though, if racing's like that as the lights go out on top of the pace car and we get set for another restart, Randy, if we're doing that all night long, 15 laps off for the restart, these guys are going to have to get their blood pressure checked at the end of it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I know a lot of people are expecting this to be single file racing here tonight. Maybe some people who do some running in the NASCAR iRacing series who aren't as good as they think they are, because these guys are some of the best. They're making this place work on multiple grooves, and we're getting ready to go back to green flag racing. I want to see if this 46 of Clampett made some adjustments and might be able to fight back to Novak, because Novak went from 6th to the lead in a hurry in that last run.
Clampett was real fast right out of the gate, but got caught by Novak. The 15 had over a 2-second advantage when that first caution flag came out. Pace car back down and in. The big difference here is, well, Novak's in front, and he is going to control this restart off of quarter number 4. Clampett pulls alongside, can't time it right. And we go back and away. 18 laps complete. Novak leads across the line. Alfala trying to dig that red number 2 car on the inside. He wants to fight for second. He'll get it.
Better start for that outside line. Colton Davis halfway through the field is going to check up the field at about 8th place or so. He falls back there 3 wide behind them as Zach Novak continues to lead. That cautious nervousness right now around 10th place still happening off this restart.
It was really tight last time. Don't expect things to single file out back here anytime soon. The 05 of Ottinger up into the 12. I think that was a Shelton. Big bobble that time at a 4 as the 05, I think, thought he was clear and then decided to back out of that at the last minute. They got into each other, and you see the 12 machine of Shelton ends up winning that fight. The 1 car of Richardson is now on the inside, but that 05 of Ottinger's lucky to still be on all 4s.
Definitely the situation, as Richardson was the most recent driver to get the sort of freight train we've seen. First it was the number 9 of Phil Diaz tonight, but now it's going to be that Warren Richardson is behind. They're 3 wide. See the 78 involved in this fight. The 74 is well up above him, and the 29. They're going to go 2 by 2 with Challoner. Goes back down to the bottom. Look at the run the 47 Overland has to get out of it as that 78 can't quite get up to speed the way he was able to. Overland way slow down the back straightaway after having to check up.
A couple of drivers tonight make a mistake and lose tons of time in between the second and third turns down that back straightaway, or even coming off the forward of turn 1. If you lose all of that momentum, it's going to be tough to wind it back up. We saw one driver lose 7 spots in a matter of 1 lap, just from what was really a relatively minor mistake. Up front, Novak still leading, clamping in the number 2 spot, but it is Ray Alfala who's trying to find out where his life preserver is, because he's sinking. The 13 of Davies up top. There's 1. Here comes the 27 of Mullis, trying to get a second spot away from the race winner from 2 weeks ago, and he's going to successfully get it. That inside just can't get that bite off of the quarter. Alfala's going to try to get a line in front of Leahy. The crossover by the 24, and Leahy's got enough speed to clear him, so Alfala going to lose 3 in 1 lap.
And they continue to go at it just in front of him as well. Jimmy Mullis right on the back porch of Brad Davies. And then you got the 46 of Logan Clampett in position number 2. Looks like Mullis is poised to make that move, but Evan, we've seen it. You can't go down low. If you do go down low, you're more than likely going to lose positions rather than gain positions. Mullis gets a great run at a corner number 4, gets to the back bumper of Davies, but can't do anything with it. Keegan Leahy gets a great run behind him. We're going to have a 3-way dance as Clampett pulls away.
And we have seen that inside on its own doesn't work, but there are ways to kind of cheat that a little bit. Don't just run the bottom, you go half and half. We see a couple of drivers, as you see the 27 looking low, enter the corner high, just get low in the center, get clear, and then jump back up top, essentially take that run away. 27 hasn't gone to set it up quite yet, but we have seen a couple of drivers utilize that this evening, including Zach Novak, who made that very spirited charge to the race lead after starting in 6th on that very short opening run. 27 looking high, looking low. He'll stay in line as Leahy goes to the bottom. See if we'll get stuck down there. He just passed up Alfala, and now Alfala's going to try to get back at the 24 if this can't stick, but Leahy not that bad on the speed this time to 3.
Maintains the overlap as they head through 3 and 4. Let's see what he's going to be able to do this time. The corner exit off of 4 not quite as tight. Might be able to maintain the momentum, but no, that upper groove is super quick, and he's probably going to have to get right back in line behind the 27 of Jimmy Mullis, who just got a huge head of steam. Let's see if Ray, though, might be able to get aggressive here. Nope. Keegan not quite close enough, so that 2 machine Ray Alfala are going to have to stay in line. Everyone going to the top side here early up amongst your race leaders. Seen some 3 and 4 wide in the depth of the field as well. And the number 9, by the way, our one-time third-place grid setter, Philip Diaz, has continued to go the wrong way. He's down in 21st when at the start of his run he was running about 11th or 12th, so something not right on that number 9 Civic MX car.
Not the only driver who started top 10 that's had some issues. Michael Gass didn't talk a whole lot about the 28 car. He's way down in 27th position after starting in 9th. So there are a couple of drivers who had their fair share of struggles early. See way back there in the pack now working with a lot of company. Back with Tucker, Gaston and company. Really, thick traffic all the way through this field, though, 2x2x2. Only battle up inside of the top 10 right now is still that 24 Leahy. And it's not even a real side-by-side, I'd say, because the 24 didn't have a car up top. He's just sticking that nose out down low, trying to see if anything will work, and inevitably when it doesn't, he'll just jump back up in line. And that's why you see as the cameras get back on this group, we're single file once more. Alfala right there, though, the 12 right there as well. Anytime you get 2-3 cars all stacked up on each other like that, something's bound to happen.
Brad Davies has been on the defense the last couple laps, lost 2 positions as you saw Keegan Leahy and Jimmy Mullis go by, and now he's got Ray Alfala he's trying to defend. Nick Shelton is there as well. Shelton's had a couple of great runs here this season, quietly into the top 10 in the point standings, but right now Brad Davies is trying to hold off Ray Alfala and Nick Shelton rather than running those guys down in front. The 2 and the 13 get a little close down there into corner number 1. The 2 will try to get the momentum off of corner number 2, and the VRS Ford number 2 of Ray Alfala will move up 1 more spot. And Shelton going to try to follow him along. Brad Davies right now, he's going to want some adjustments, I'm sure, on that next stop.
In the 13 down low, but he just can't match that bite off of the corner. And again, inside is not the best place to be for that, but definitely once he got down there, I think it was all but done. So Alfala to 5th, Shelton to 6th, and Davies falls to 7th. Not all bad, again, still running inside of the top 10. Do have something brewing, though, closer to the front of the field with that pesky 24. Keegan Leahy again on the inside of the 46. That is a battle with Jimmy Mullis and Logan Clampett, should say, rather, for second, third, and fourth positions right now. And the 24 Leahy finds a spot right in the middle of it.
That number 46 of Clampett just went the wrong way. That 1.5 mile trip around the racetrack. Second down to fourth by the time he got back to start finish. So something not going right for him. But Jimmy Mullis, Chaos Crew teammate, able to pick up that second spot. And Keegan Lee from Phenom Racing Team, kind of really the solo one out here running up near the front, doing a very good job of matching the pace of these Lockdown and NX and Chaos Crew teams and drivers. They're all sort of just associated semi-alliance, I believe. And, well, that Lockdown car of Novak is looking quick. Still 2.8 seconds out clear of anybody. Let's see if Jimmy Mullis from Lockdown might be able to reel in his teammate out in front.
Exactly what he's hoping on, try to maybe take control of this thing, go to 1-2. Novak, and we mentioned that the yellow flag wasn't necessarily within his best interest because he lost that 2-second advantage. Well, you're taking a look right now at some of the intervals by lap, but that overall gap right there in the middle, 2.7 seconds between your race leader and Jimmy Mullis, who runs in the number 2 position, and I don't expect Novak to be slowing down anytime soon. With a great lap that last time by, stretches it out by just a tad bit more. Mullis, though, maybe a little bit preoccupied with Keegan Leahy. That 24 has been one of the most persistent we've seen so far this evening and has done a very good job of making something work. Not necessarily presented a perfect situation, but taking what he's given and executing with that. And it's what's got him from 10th to 3rd right now. Looking to crack the top 2 as you look out the front of the 24.
Keegan Leahy is definitely keeping Jimmy Mullis honest here. They made the move on Brad Davies, then they passed Ray Alfala, and now they're, Logan Clampett, and now here goes the 24 down to the inside, and he'll pick up one spot on Jimmy Mullis, and now Mullis will play chase to the 24 of Keegan Leahy, and we'll see if he can keep step with that new second-place driver as they try to chase down your leader, Zach Novak, in front. As you mentioned, the gap around 2.7 seconds between those top two as we'll close lap 34 this time.
34 laps complete for the Kansas Speedway. Again, 167 laps total distance in this race. Lap counter up at the top left-hand side of your screen. Of course, full running order going to by at the top side of your screen as well. Did also want to note, happy that you're obviously tuned in with us, RaceSpot TV at iRacing Live. But if you are also joining us on the Facebook live stream, if you share this stream with your friends on Facebook, iRacing will randomly select somebody who did that, and they will be awarded 15 iRacing credits. So if you've been looking at a certain racetrack you want to give a go, if there's a car out there you haven't had an opportunity to get yet, if you share this live stream on Facebook with your friends, one of you is going to win $15 in iRacing credits, courtesy of our friends at iRacing. So a shout out and a hello to everybody tuning in over there as well. And you've been in for a treat so far, but I think finally inside of the top 10, we've settled things down just a little bit. A lot of funny going on elsewhere on track as we roam through, and you can see a majority of the field single file down the back.
Everyone's pretty much gotten single file here, and I think he just wants to get some green flag laps logged here and running, and it really has the feel of a long green flag run right now. There's no real close fights up and down the field. You get in the depth with a couple side by side, but for the most part, it's just one or two cars. There is a couple 3 or 4 cars scrapped, so deep in the field, like Jake Sturgis, Joe Letterello, Michael Guest, Phil Diaz. A lot of NASCAR cars in that group, isn't there? Unfortunately, deep down the field that are fighting it out for the most part, really in your top 15, top 20. Everyone's just running one by one by one. It's actually the one of Marcus Richardson is going to look to the bottom of the loop groove. Here in the 13 of Brad Davies will be able to maintain the run. Actually gets a good run coming off corner number 4. He might just have that spot at the line. No, not quite, but the number 1 car of Richardson trying to make that bottom work, and he's got it into one.
Almost played chicken that time with the 13 of Davies. The one was down low and came right up on the door of Davies, almost crowded him going into the corner, and it is going to be cleared, and that spot will go to Marcus Richardson down the back straightaway. Davies now falls 3 spots since the restart back from where he started this race in the number 5 position, now 38 laps ago. A mistake though by Richardson, sideways off of the corner and made pretty good contact. Here comes Davies, and here comes Pipgrass. Look at the 29 car. He wants 2 spots. He might not get either if he can't clear the 13. Off of corner number 2, he's got it. What a move. And now the 13 makes a mistake.
And Brad Davies once again on the defense, trying to hold off Marcus Richardson. We saw that move the last lap by, but man, oh man, Richardson hit that wall the wrong place, coming off of corner number 4, right there where the safer barrier kind of goes away a little bit, kind of got the car sideways and fell back a little bit more from Davies in the 13 as they continue to run nose to tail. Pipgrass is on the move, up in the top 10. He started in position number 20, and now he chases down the driver that started behind him, Nick Shelton, albeit there's about 2 seconds or so between Brandon Pipgrass, and you see that look up there to what would be Nick Shelton, Ray Alfala, Logan Clampett, and those guys battling for position as Shelton trying to set up Logan Clampett as Ray Alfala made the move the last lap by to get one more position and move him into position number 4 as Clampett, a little bit of a slide job down into corner number 1. He's going to try to save that thing, and he had a handful down there into corner number 1. It seems like he and Davies, especially near the front of the field, Evan, they want a pit stop. They want some adjustments made to those race cars because they seem to be going rather than coming towards the front.
And that's is exactly what we expect to see at about this point of the race. Tim touched on it a little bit earlier as well, Randy, the fact that you do need some green flag laps early on. Drivers, again, maybe with a little bit more race pace than their qualifying efforts, vice versa. Something that we mentioned every single week or so, obviously, because you tend to see a little bit more yellows in the first half of a race compared to the second half of the race, just because drivers are trying to compensate for exactly that and to make up spots here and there. And you're seeing, obviously, fighting up front. Shelton going to get another spot in the number 12 car. He slides high on Mullis, and he'll now move up into 4th position. Biggest mover on the night, Nicholas Shelton, has now gone 21st to 4th, nearly all the way through the field.
He's doing a good job, isn't he, Nicholas Shelton? The slip angle car is starting to come in. The Phenom car is coming in too. The lockdown cars, however, and I think the dead zone cars as well, starting to fall away because the last 6 or 7 laps, Keegan Leahy has railed in that race leader to the tune of about a second and a half. So Keegan Leahy, Phenom Racing Team, we've seen them be strongest on the long stages of the run. Think when Ryan Luza won his races and when Keegan Leahy was strong at Vegas and an auto club as well. They are typically been the best team and the best cars once we get 20, 30 laps into the run. So that number 24 is absolutely flying on the racetrack right now. 10th and a half again taken out of that 15 of Zach Novak that last time through. So look for that number 24, the next 10 to 15 laps to get to the rear bumper of that 15 of Zach Novak, and that's when you start thinking about where you're going to and when you're going to come down pit road. As you see these guys starting to use different grooves on the racetrack, even by themselves, trying to find some pace. Keegan's been running the bottom.
Caution flag is out, about to see a pass between Alfala and Shelton for 3rd and 4th, but a yellow is going to stop that one from happening. I think it's the 14 to Casey Kerwin. That car does not look normal as it crab walks down the back straightaway, and it is problems with the driver who was running in the number 27 spot. We're going to look at this up in just a minute. On RaceSpot TV replay, you saw it right there with the 14 machine. Just broke sideways all on his own. Coming into the quarter, here's the onboard. Slid that car all the way through the quarter and eventually looped it around. Did a good job, though, of just doing the spin and kept on going. Didn't hit anybody else. Didn't hit anything. It will still trigger a yellow. Cut the longest green flag of the run short at lap 44.
As the field will come down onto pit road, you see that 14 of Kerwin try to save that thing, and we saw it a little bit earlier on with Logan Clampett near the front of the field, trying to pitch that thing into the corner, not maybe by design, but still was able to catch it. Casey Kerwin not able to do so, and that will draw the caution as the field heads down onto pit road for the second time this evening on lap number 46 to get service to their race cars.
Back in this time. Last time everybody agreed 4 tires was the name of the game, and we saw a couple of things shuffle up towards the front, but it was Novak who was in first and out first. We'll see if he can do the same thing as he's in pit stall number 6. Challenge may come from Leahy. Alfala, a couple of drivers nice and tight on the bumper as they burn him out of the pit stalls. The 24 is going to give it a go. He'll come up about a half a car length short from pulling that one off, and Novak first off of the 4 tires ahead of Leahy, Alfala, Shelton, Mullis, Clampett, Pipgrass, and Overland. No changes 1 through 9. First in and first out of pit road on speed. I did see Adam Gilliland, however, in the 8 car drive out on the right-hand side. The 8 machine did not make it into the pit box. He missed his stall. So you'll see him in the race lead technically at the moment. He's going to have to come back down pit road this time. That's going to hurt. He was already, kind of mid-pack in a position that you don't necessarily want to be in, 17th. And he'll probably be all the way in the back. Not
he stopped out on the racetrack. He stopped out on the racetrack. I don't know if he's out of fuel or letting everybody by. Not really sure what the deal is here with Adam Gilliland, but it's a bit of an embarrassing mistake when you've already been down pit road once to miss your box yet again, and he stopped out there on the racetrack. I don't know if he's raging or what the deal is, but he's just stationary down there on the apron right now, I believe, in 3 and 4.
I can't imagine that he's at a fuel tin because he would have had enough speed in 3 and 4 to coast to pit road. He was doing about 50 miles an hour when he slowed that car up. So he's just stopped down there on pit road now. The lights are still on top of the pace car. I would imagine, as he now starts to roll again, that he was the race leader unless he was penalized for something, but he never made it into the box. So he hasn't had an opportunity to serve any sort of a penalty yet. Now he'll come down pit road, obviously, to get the repairs there, or the fuel, I should say, in the tires that he needed in the first place. But, I mean, he was going to the back either way. I just thought he would have gone to the back after he got the service.
Yeah, maybe he sped on pit road or something to put him back there. But, I mean, it's been a tough week for that team. We talked at the start of the season about the team and Aftermath Motorsports coming together as a technical alliance. But Adam's the only one from that team that's left. Dylan Duval not here this evening. Cody Bias not here this evening. Kenny Humpy not here this evening. And Timmy Hill not here this evening as well. So Adam is the Lone Ranger. He is from Texas, so we'll see if he can come back up through the field. Prior to that little altercation or miscue, whatever you want to call it, Evan, he was in the top 20, was doing fairly well on that green flag run.
It was 17th position when all of that happened, and unfortunately for him, he had already worked his way up from 34th all the way at the back. So we got halfway there. We're going to have to hit the reset button and try it again with 48 laps complete. We're past quarter distance, though, tonight for the Kansas Speedway. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by our friends at Peak. At Peak, we're not afraid to mix it up with the big boys. This is why we've been actively involved in motorsports for over 30 years. We identify with the straight shooters like John Force and Clint Boyer, just two of the truly great racers who've been part of the Peak family throughout the years. Today, Peak still aims to shock the motorsports establishment, partly as a way to showcase the excellence and competitive quality of our family of brands, but mostly because it's so much fun. You can look for our drivers and teams to challenge the heavy hitters in the likes of NASCAR, NHRA, Dirt Late Model Racing, and more. For more information, to go to peakauto.com today. So big thanks to Peak, obviously title sponsor of this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series. 48 laps down as we get set for a restart. Zach Novak, second consecutive time he'll bring us to the green. Not a whole lot has changed way up front. Shelton in the number 4 position, I think, is going to be the driver to keep an eye on here. He was maybe 5-10 seconds away from completing a pass at Al Fallow, and that yellow came out. We'll see what he can do from the arguably that preferred lane. The outside just has to get going. That's where they struggled the first time, a little bit better on the second one. We'll see what happens. Maybe third time's the charm as we go back green. Novak, good jump, and Al Fallow trying to take advantage down low. Let's him 3 wide for second for a minute.
At number 24 up top, not getting a good run at all on this restart. Keegan Lee's going to fall back to third, maybe even fourth. And Nick Shelton's going to try to work the momentum and work his way forward. Can he get clear? Yes, he can. So Keegan Lee, the driver who had so much pace late in that last run, falls back 2 spots already as he head down in towards 3 and 4. Behind, side by side as well. This is the 29 of Pipgrass fighting with Mullis in the 27.
And then 27, Machida Mullis trying to make something happen up top. He's got that preferred position down to the corner.
Schoenberg, 55, he's coming back up onto the racetrack. He saves it, keeps it out of people. Sorry.
Oh, it was a good save at a 55. He got hit by Busa. He kind of slid up in front of that 34 off of the corner. The car was straight down into the grass, but Tim, oftentimes, the car will rattle around down there and end up slotting it back up on track to 55. But it was going to be coming up on the bank, and regardless, it was a fantastic job by Schoenberg not taking out the field there, and he does lose spots and fall back below the 10 mission of Corey Vincent in 20th. The race car still on track. A great job.
Yeah, I saw somewhere earlier tonight that he tweaked his knee today, so I know he's racing a little bit hurt, but a great save for that number 55, the double nickel of Brian Schoenberg, hustling that Heyman hustle car through the grass and back out on the racetrack. Battle for position number 2 continues to heat up. Nick Shelton, we talked about him before, came oh so close earlier in the season to winning his first NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series race, but lost it in those last couple laps to guys like Ray Alfala and Ryan Luza. Right now in position number 3, having a great race so far, and just riding behind Ray Alfala. Still lots of laps left to go in this one, and in contention. He can see the leader in front of him.
All you can hope for is just keep that leader within sight and see what you can do with it as you ride on board with Nicholas Shelton. Teammate in that 2 machine right up in front of him, and Ray Alfala running in the number 2 spot. Leahy single file, Clampett, Pipgrass, and company through the top 5 or so. There is some fighting at the tail end of the top 10. That 13 machine is in the middle of this one. Brad Davies trying to defend 9th, and how about Chris Overland? You can never miss the bright yellow 4070 car. He's down low. That one's not going to play out in his favor. He'll dart back up in line before the 13 can get there. Davies gives him a little shot down into 3.
want to talk about consistency for an entire team. The slip angle car is starting to move their way forward. Alfala 7th up to 2nd. Shelton 21st up to 3rd. Now Chris Overland 19th up to 8th. So those guys, we saw this from them at Richmond last week as well. They didn't quite have the starts to the races that they would typically like, but they found their way forward late in the game. They're doing the exact same thing right here, right now. Only slip angle car that seems to be really off the pace is unfortunately that 83 of Bobby Zielinski, who 7 seconds off your leader, running dead last here in 33rd.
The 33rd position, last car actively on the lead lap. Of course, Michael Conti was involved in that early accident. That car is not technically retired from this race. It is still sitting stationary in his pit stall, but for all intent and purposes, Conti's night is done, and it'll be a P34. The driver who came into this one, I'm sure, with some pretty high expectations, entering 5th in the championship standings. So that's a couple of drivers in this race, or rather not in this race. Luza not making a start. Conti wrecking out early. Top 5 guys at points have not had a very fun evening so far from Kansas.
Yeah, we keep mentioning when we look towards those playoffs to set yourself up, you get that one drop race. So essentially you get one mulligan to take away from your total before you head into the playoffs, and some of those using a little bit early here on round number 6 of this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series. Look at Andrew Fayash digging on the inside. The 77 car trying to make it work on the inside of the 57 as they drag race down the back. Nolan Scott there as well. Nice little battle here midway through the pack. David Rattler involved in it as well. And these guys, they're close together. They're trying to pick up some spots. Those guys up in front, for the most part, single file and logging some laps as Fayash looks to pick up the position here. And he's trying to clear that 57 on the inside line.
Doing everything he can. The 57, though, wants to be as stubborn as possible. That's Joe Lorello up there, who right now runs in the 24th spot. 77's going to find a break. Wasn't able to get up alongside the 16 machine. He might have been able, though, to stay low, try to do something with Nolan Scott. But Fayash figures, hey, I'd rather get this one to position, tuck up and line Randy, as opposed to going for one more, getting trapped on the inside of that line of 6 or 7 cars that you see trailing this side-by-side battle. So I think a smart call on his part. But 57 can't catch his breath. He's got another driver trying to get up on him. It's Leonardo Rattler, who I think trying to get back up in line. The 54 almost snicked him on him. So Michael Guest trying to be sneaky.
Michael Guest trying to make some moves as well, as you're going to be seeing that up and down the field, especially with the way this bottom and middle groove has worked. People have been trying to make that work all night, as the 77 is now going to work on the 16 of Nolan Scott. Coming off corner number 4, not quite going to be able to get clear, but he'll have the short line down on the apron, going to come back up onto the racetrack. But Nolan has a big head of steam up top through corners number 1 and 2. That 16 car will hold on to the spot for now, but the 77 of Fayash is going to wind it up down there on the bottom. And does he get enough of a run? No, he's not. He's not going to be clear just yet. Now he's able to get there. He's going to move himself up a spot here. So well done there by the 77 of Andrew Fayash, as the fight for second picking up for as well. Keegan Lee, Keegan Lee, as well as Sheldon and Pipgrass and Alfala all fighting for spots.
And Alfala again got lucky with that yellow, held off Leahy the last time, but he's not going to be as fortunate this go around. Look at that 24 car. Even when he was cleared, used that hybrid line of starting up high, going down low, finishing high, whereas everybody else is going way up top. Look how big the difference in the line is there in the center of the quarter, and the 24 is able to get a pretty good run off, and all of a sudden he's pulled 8 car lengths on Alfala. It was a very convincing pass to put him into the number 2 position right there, and Alfala Shelton going to be left to fight for scraps, which, to be fair, is still 3rd and 4th on track, so that's pretty good, but Leahy made that look way too easy.
Yeah, as you mentioned, he's running that middle to low groove. In this part of the run, it's essentially go where they're not, and he's making it work right now. You see him hugging that white line right to the bottom, then coming up at a corner number 4 and sweeping out. Whatever they figured out, Evan, they figured it out and figured it out well. He's in position number 2, and not only is he runner-up right now, he's closing in on that leader. Meanwhile, the 12 is Shelton, going to try to do the same thing that Keegan Leahy did. Works the inside of the 2, but just can't seem to get that run in the middle off, and will have to fall back behind the 2 of Ray Alfala. So impressive run by the 24, at least in this stage of the race, working lap number 62. And hugging that white line, we don't see many hugging that white line. I think we saw Overland, that bright yellow car in the middle of the corner, hugging it up back there, but everybody else seems to have that high side.
That flat part of the racetrack as well that you see everybody go down to. A lot of these intermediate racetracks have that flat apron in between that white and that yellow line that you can utilize. But it is very wide here at Kansas. Really lends itself to drivers going down there and trying to get a little bit extra. We pick up a fight with the 36 of Shearburn and the 05 at Ottinger. It's for 14th and 15th on track. But the one thing is, if you were to look at this racetrack, Randy, from straight up in the air, that tri-oval, it's much more aggressive here than it is anywhere else. It is essentially another whole left-hand turn. There's a big kink in that front straightaway, so if you're down low, you're really cranking that wheel all the way to the left, putting quite the stress on that race car as we go 3 wide in this fight as Busa wants to go up the middle. He got the positioning, but not before the 05 Ottinger cleared them both on the outside.
A good move there by the only race winner at this racetrack in the series, the 05 Ottinger. Now Booth is going to take a peek down to the bottom. The 36 of Shearburn just basically goes to the top. Can't make anything of it, though, and Booth going to maintain side-by-side down this front straightaway. You're absolutely right when you talk about, though, Evan, how much the tri-oval actually curves around here as Booth is still trying to work that bottom line. Now he's going to run the middle on entry and then get down to the bottom on exit. Will that allow him to maintain the speed? Not quite. Still not clear as that number 34 Radicals machine.
The 34 machine is jumped into the party here and wasn't able to get any spots after making that courageous move 3 wide. He'll try the bottom of the racetrack again, kind of in no man's land, not clear of the 36, not quite yet up at the 05. But he's able to use that bottom of the racetrack, and as we head back off to turn 1, maybe with a shot at passing the 05 of Ottinger. Again, all of this for 14th position on track. You see some funning going on behind, but single file in front. Busa going to have to wait another lap. That 05, again, just too smooth on exit. Negates that 34's advantage by cutting down low in the center right there, almost all the way down to that white line.
Yeah, the two teammates at GFR working at a corner number 4, and Shearburn is there as well. You see Keegan Leahy on the left-hand side of your screen, and he is digging in to that margin that the Zach Novak car had built. It's now 1.3 seconds. It was almost 2 seconds a few laps ago. So he is coming. We will have a battle for the lead here, probably within 10 laps or less. But the battles within the pack, you continue to see Busa work over Ottinger, Chris Shearburn there as well. And Brian Schoenberg went through the grass earlier in this run, and he's still digging it within the top 20, sitting back in position number 17. So there's some comers and some goers, and we'll see that all night long here at Kansas as this groove continues to change.
Schoenberg fell back to 20th, so he's been able to get 3 spots back since then. Again, I think he's just fortunate that he's still got a race car underneath him in general. And somebody else who's had a couple of ups and downs tonight, Gilliland, you mentioned, started 34th, got to 17th before he had that issue. He's back up to 27th position, so another driver slowly creeping their way back into the picture. Still watching this fight, and the 05 machine of Nick Ottinger is another car that you could immediately recognize from anywhere. Those bright colors on board that 05 Toyota Camry, still mixing it up with Busa and Shearburn. 34 and the 36 can kind of blend together with that similar color scheme, but Busa is the one on the inside of the racetrack, and the 36 of Shearburn's on the outside as they head down the back straightaway to turn 3. Busa really favoring that bottom, so if you don't know, the 34 is probably the one down there.
Yeah, that's basically been the situation. Booth is still trying to make it work, still not quite able to get clear. Is Matt Booth, and he's going to get back up into line. Nick Ottinger all the way up against the grass. And I like what you said, Evan, about the colors, because a lot of the teams, a lot of the drivers, they'll run similar-ish looking schemes. You'll see red be really popular, black, whites, and grays. I really do love that 05 machine's color scheme, that sort of orange and light blue. It's rather unique and easy to spot on the racetrack, just as he said.
And listen, I love the the black and red and white color scheme. That's what I run on my cars. But Nick Ottinger's a car that's a car that always jumps out. You got obviously Chris Overland's car in the 47. It's been that neon yellow for quite some time. And I think we're at the point now, Tim, 6 races into the season or so, I think we're starting to be able to catch up and kind of identify who somebody is even before we recognize that number, getting situated with a lot of the new color schemes these guys have been running this year. And a lot of that's due to the fact that we've seen a lot of new teams been formed in the offseason, and that's as well been a little bit of an adjustment period, I'm sure, for us up top, everybody tuning in, and probably the drivers on track as well, trying to figure out who they're running against.
We know the double clutch Menards 47 of Chris Overland, though. It's been that way for the last couple of seasons, and it's great for us because we can actually spot it on the racetrack. In front of them, a battle between 2 Chaos Crew teammates. It's Logan Clampett on the inside, the 27 on the outside of Jimmy Mullis. Mullis trying to hold on to that battle, and We see 2 black and red cars. We're about to see 2 white cars go for the lead as well. Keegan Leahy is there. He has caught Zach Novak. It's 2 car lengths between your top 2 as the 15 has seen that number 24 VRS car get bigger and bigger and bigger in the rear view. And now he's going to look to the inside. Is Keegan Leahy for the lead position? And he's going to make this thing look easy. Like Zach Novak is standing still. Keegan Leahy to the top of the board.
Leahy going to go to the race lead in this one. The 24 machine, persistent all night long. He finally gets the job done just shy of halfway home. You lead at lap number 73. So it'll kick Novak back to second. Curious to see how far that 24 can jet away now that he's in front and's got the clean air. He absolutely left the likes of Ray Alfala. Would have made that pass for position for second and third a little bit ago, but Alfala also just lost a spot that last lap as well. A lot happened there. That blue 29 of Brandon Pitgrass made the move on him. So Pitgrass following Shelton throughout the field. They started alongside each other, 20th and 21st. They're running right now 3rd and 4th, so it's been quite the road trip for those two as they now into those top couple of spots. Alfala falling to 5th.
Again, you got a trio of slip angle cars there now in the top 5 with Shelton, Pitgrass, and Alfala. They're all kind of coming into the same point of the run, but the team machine of Alfala definitely seems stronger in the early stages of green flag run, but he falls off late as Keegan Lee. He's wasted no time running away from that 15, and Novak used 0.4 of a second clear that last time through already, and as he heads down toward the front straightaway, it's going to be even more than that. I think it's going to be close to a full second. The 24 is pulled out as he comes across the stripe, and our timing is going to update 0.9 of a second, the gap now between Leahy and Novak. So that 24 car and Phenom, they got a fantastic set underneath them for these cookie cutters, Evan, because we've seen them be phenomenally quick all year, no pun intended.
Well, exactly, and that goes back to the point from really early on, Tim, is, we talk about these intermediate racetracks and the good number of them that we have on this calendar. Vegas a couple of weeks ago, Kansas tonight, Charlotte. Some of the other ones include Chicago, of course, later on in the season, Atlanta and Homestead. These are the racetracks that more people can be competitive at in the aspect that a lot of people really like Dover, but a lot of people really don't like a place like Dover, and there's a lot of racetracks like that. Somebody like a Phoenix, of course, Sonoma is going to be one of those as well, and Dover later on in the year. These racetracks tend to be a little bit more balanced because there's a lot of them like it, so the difference between car A, B, and C is not going to be as much at some of the other racetracks, so you really have to find something special to take advantage and be the best at a racetrack like this, and Leahy's definitely doing it. Just a couple of laps removed, he's already a second out in front, and he's blown by everybody thinking maybe he's tearing up those tires. Doesn't look like it. The 24 is looking really good right now.
Got a battle for second on our hands as well. Nick Shelton took it at the line, and now Novak falls in behind. And where did Brandon Pitgrass come from? Man, that number 29's having a great run this evening. To the inside he goes on Zach Novak, and he'll look at Nick Shelton as well. But first, gotta get by the 15. Little bobble up the racetrack for the 29 and Pitgrass. He maintains what is now the 3rd place position, passing Zach Novak, and that little bobble cost him a little bit of time, Evan. He's now going to try to reel in Nick Shelton in front of him, but one of the drivers on the move, Brandon Pitgrass, moving to 3rd, pulling away from Novak and trying to reel in position number 2.
Gonna reel him in for sure. Shelton got caught up to a couple of laps ago. Thought Novak was gonna get the job done right there and then. However, Pitgrass in the 29 has since jumped up to 3rd, and we'll see if it's going to be his machine who rockets to the front. Not as much separation as you might expect up this far towards the front of the field. Shelton in 2nd, all the way back to Alfala in 5th, separated by just 1.5 seconds. That's the same interval that you'll find from 1st to 2nd and from 5th to 6th. So it's definitely a little mini group here in the middle of the top 5. Keegan Leahy wants nothing to do with it, though, and he'll let everybody else scrap it out as we begin to work into the longest green flag run of the evening here shortly, just a handful of laps away from getting the cross flags from Kansas.
Probably not far away from green flag pit stops either. We went green lap number 48, 49, working lap number 81 right now. So we are a bulk of the way through the run, and I think strategy is going to likely come into effect relatively soon. Probably about 5, maybe 10 laps away from the people who decide to come down and do the short stop and try the undercut strategy coming down pit road. I think that's going to happen sooner rather than later. As the 02 of actually Bergeron just in front of your leader, he gets into the wall, I think, coming off turn 4.
We've seen a couple of drivers shower some sparks. Would it be surprised if Alex Bergeron got bit with that one as well? It's nighttime conditions, again, right under the light, so it's a lot easier to see those sparks fly as well. And the O2 machine a little bit rattled that time in the corner, maybe not as aggressive as he should be. And the 24 machine going to put him a lap down. So that'll leave us with 31 cars on the lead lap this long into a run. Close it on the halfway point in this race tonight for the Kansas Speedway. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Bedliners. The tough comes easy. And you mentioned that maybe that O2 of Bergeron gets into the fence, Tim. If you get into the wall and then you give up a position that lap immediately afterwards, and the car doesn't look torn up, that tells me that that kind of psyched him out a little bit. He's on the inside trying to hold off that 29 of Pit Grass, who's one of the lead lap cars, and is obviously going to be able to get on by him. But for that O2 machine, if you get into the wall, I definitely say you're going to second guess yourself and you go in there a half a foot off at the next time by, and it can really disrupt the rhythm.
And now if you're in Bergeron's shoes, you've just fallen a lap down, so now you don't want to get up close to that wall again, at least at this point, and possibly ruin somebody else's races. Closest battle within the top 10 right now, Chris Overland and the 46 of Logan Clampett have been going side by side for about a lap now. Clampett trying to take the spot back from Overland. Overland gets a run this time at a corner number 2 and will take that spot back, but Logan Clampett, if he's one thing, he's persistent, looking for that spot for position number 6 as they come through corners number 3 and 4. Overland sweeps up the racetrack. Great run by Clampett. Can he get to the inside? He's going to try to go to the outside. Overland down to the apron. Fantastic little battle here the last couple laps between these two.
Great battle going on inside of the top 10. That 46 machine to Clampett sticking up top. He'll get the run off of the corner. The idea is, though, with that line Overland takes as he stays up and in front of him. That works. He'll force Clampett to go low. So the crossover to turn 3. And look at that move. Nice one there for Clampett. Instead of going all the way down, trying to stay as high as he could on Overland. And Overland's going to cross him right back up. So back and forth. Great stuff between these two. And we'll split some lap traffic 3 wide for a brief second.
They're going to get stayed side by side through 1 and 2. The 47 Overland all the way down to the bottom now comes and slides back up the racetrack. Can he get clear the 46? Yes, he can. Just barely. So Overland's going to take that spot back as they head down the back straightaway. But talking about green flag pit stop, 77 Andrew Fayash, who's just behind, just came out on a new tires, and Andrew's out there flying.
Coming in as well, just saw the 24 out of the corner of my eye. So Keegan Leahy going to come down pit road. And oftentimes your race leader's not the first one to kick it all off, Tim. They'll wait till somebody within their immediate vicinity comes in and they kind of get their hand forced to come in. The 24 wants control of his own destiny. We're halfway home and he's on pit road.
And we see that 12 car up in front now. Nick Shelton leading some laps in yet another NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series event early in his career. He's going to come down onto pit road here and surrender the lead. Brandon Pipgrass would be the next one in line, and he'll come flying down here and he'll be on top of the scoring pylon. But this is where pit stops really get kicked off. Do you want to wait a couple laps after the leader comes down onto pit road? Do you want to have that advantage or disadvantage? We'll find out now. You see Keegan Leahy coming off of pit road, Ray Alfala right behind him.
And the idea, Randy, obviously behind the short pit is you're going to get on those fresh tires. You're going to be out there with new Goodyear Eagles while everybody else is still running on some slower lap times. Pipgrass leads 1. He'll come down pit road. The fastest lap that Pipgrass ran tonight was a 28.793 at a restart. The slowest one he ran was a 31.2. That's a pretty significant fall off on tires. You figure if you're giving up 2 seconds every lap, the longer you stay out, the further and further behind you're going to be. So he'll take the bonus point up front, come down pit road. Next up in line of the race lead, the 46 of Clampett.
It's Clampett and then the 15 of Novak. Someone we saw leading really early on in this race. He will eventually be the next one to come down pit road. I will say, though, Evan, I know you kind of mentioned it, I am really surprised the 24 of Keegan Leahy opted to come down pit road. We've seen him be dominant a couple times this far this season and have things not really go his way, have a couple of unfortunate things happen. Vegas really comes to mind with him finding the side of that number 3 of Jarl Tien, who has stopped in corners number 1 and 2, and he's pretty much dominating that race. I think for the 24 of Keegan Leahy, doing the short stop when he sort of had the pace he did seemed like a bit of a risk. If a caution comes out now, he's basically going to be stuck down a lap, and that's going to be the end of his night. So I don't really like the strategy from the 24, but if it works out, it'll likely put him with a pretty good race lead.
And that's why, you know, pit strategy isn't as easy as you would like it to be. As Clampett stays out front, continues to run. You see Shearburn, who has assumed the number 2 position. Clampett broke the trend of guys coming down pit road. Saw 3-4 drivers in a row lead one, then come down. The 46 is still out there, Tim. Obviously, if you weren't worried about getting stuck a lap down, you'd pit early and get the fresh tires as soon as you can. But with all good things in life, there has to be a caveat, and this is it's getting stuck a lap down, and that's why we only have 9 cars in the lead lap at the moment. Keegan Leahy, first driver a lap down, but again, if a yellow were to come out, he'd be stuck down there, along with everybody scored 10th through 31st right now, a lap down.
We've mentioned before that a lot of these teams do have crew chiefs per se, as Casey Kerwin comes down on the pit road. Personnel that work through the tire strategy, work through the gas strategy to try to get yourself to the end of the race. Race strategists per se, and as Logan Clampett leads this one, we talked about Brandon Hastings. We saw Schoenberg on the screen a little bit earlier on. I'm sure he's calculating the fuel mileage for him and some of these guys, and some of these strategists have it down pat. A 2-stop strategy might be 3 seconds or 4 seconds faster per run, and they figure it out at the end of it, but obviously race strategy changes, caution flags come out, so we'll see what transpires here as you ride along with Brian Schoenberg. We talked about Brandon Hastings a little bit earlier on. I'm sure he's up on the box trying to see where this thing goes for that double nickel Heyman hustle car. As a lot of cars on new tires hustling on the outside of them.
Also, one of those hold your breath moments is because of that closing rate. How about that 3 wide there? Boost in the middle of the 78 machine down on the inside of the racetrack, and the slower car is still way up top. I'm believing Clampett, Schoenberg, the only 2, and 55 of Schoenberg heads to pit road this time. It is Clampettation and only Clampettation still out there on track. You see the 55 headed for service. Going to be a 4-tire call with fuel. So how long does Logan Clampett want to play this game? That 44 on the inside of the racetrack. That's your second place runner, Keegan Leahy. He has unlapped himself now, still running in second. That's not a pass for position, although that is 1 and 2 on the racetrack. So Leahy is no longer a lap down, and just watch the distance that this 24 machine Randy pulls on him here. That's how much you're giving up per lap on the old tires. Maybe the idea with Clampett here is to stretch this thing out and do it on 1 stop instead of 2.
Well, everyone's going to have to do, everyone's good on the 1 stop. I think everyone will have to come down pit road one more time. I think the guys that came down early, they'll be likely looking for about 120, 130. Everyone else, like Logan Clampett, I don't know, it's going to be a little bit less, maybe a slightly later pit stop overall in the run, closer to about 150 or so, depending exactly when he comes down pit road. I like the strategy call for Logan Clampett. He was quick in qualifying, but hasn't really had a great race car underneath him tonight. This puts him off cycle, gets him doing something different. If it ends up working, I think it's a good call, and we remember what we saw at Vegas. People who ended up trying to make it on a couple stopper and do the undercut, all those people ended up losing out at that race. Not a single one of them was left in an advantageous position. Might be the 46, the only one who's really in a good position once we get to the end of this. We'll just have to wait and see how it pans out.
And listen to Clampett as he goes into the corner, saving a little bit of fuel, so maybe is trying to stretch this far enough to only have to make 1 stop to the end, whereas if you include the stops that literally everybody else has taken, that 1 more stop would put them on a 2-stop strategy to the end, because if he's not going for that, Tim, I can't quite put my finger on what he's doing here. He was your pole sitter, yes, he wasn't running at P1 pace, but he was still 7 spots, so the 46 machine has got something up his sleeve, or he's off his meds right now, either or, and the caveat is around. He's going to hit the wall that time. The 46, big hit into the outside wall. I was going to say, Randy said that we aren't really able to tell if this strategy is going to be the right call until, of course, we find out at the end, but that's not going to help the 46 any.
And he was running within the top 10, and I was just about to say, especially on this outside line where everybody's walking that fine line, we've caught Logan Clampett a couple of times trying to stick handle that race car and keep it on the straight and narrow and trying to not completely pitch that car around and spin it out. He's been walking a really fine line, and we just saw him step over that line the last lap by, but right now, currently in P1, we'll see if the strategy works. That's why we're up here, but usually when we have that strategy work out, Evan, we have, you know, maybe a half dozen, maybe 10 drivers stay out and try that strategy and try to push it a little bit further. It's been a long time in this series since we've seen one lone driver try one strategy and everybody else essentially give or take a couple laps beyond the different ones. So we'll see how this plays out with Logan Clampett, but right now the Lone Ranger per se out in front.
And this isn't tires. This is all 100% fuel. I don't think we've really noticed this. It's not just tire strategy. He is clutching it on the entry into these corners. If we go on board, you can actually watch the revs with the recent update. He's clutching it, bringing it down to about 1,200 RPM to idle before he re-engages the clutch. So Logan Clampett, this is not just a tire call. He is trying to just do it on one stop, Evan, and he's trying to save as much fuel as he possibly can in that 46.
Another driver going to unlap themselves. It's Jimmy Mullis. This is only going to get more anxiety for everybody who's tracked the lap down. The 27 is going to get back to the lead lap, who runs in 5th. But Zach Novak, P6, all the way through Corey Vincent, P32, were lead lap cars, but are down a lap now because of the strategy play here from Logan Clampett in that 46 machine. I'm sure smack at the outside wall was not part of the agenda, but it is quite clear that that 46 machine is trying to stretch this one out and go for the one-stop strategy. The only driver doing it right now, Logan Clampett versus the world.
And theoretically, let's play devil's advocate. If a caution flag were to come out now or within the next 10 laps or so, Logan Clampett would still be your leader. He'd come down pit road, and theoretically, that would be their final stop unless somebody tries to do a 30-lap stint in between there. But Logan Clampett looks pretty good right now. If it stays the way it is, then if he comes down pit road under green, it's a whole different ball game. So right now, if the caution comes out within the next 20-25 laps or so, Logan might not be too bad out in front.
You can see the speed difference by the 78 machine. The one thing I'm going to be watching, Randy, is that interval between he and Keegan Leahy. If Clampett does have the ability to make this on one stop, Leahy's already pitted, so Leahy's got to make one more stop as well. So essentially, you're looking at these two drivers now head-to-head. It's a 20-second advantage for Clampett that Leahy's going to have to try to make up. If Clampett gets to his number and is able to pit before Leahy catches all the way back up to him, the advantage then swings in Clampett's favor. So that's going to be a good indication to watching the interval between the top two on just how close these guys are going to end up. That is, again, if those fuel numbers fall into the green.
And the thing is that for the 46, I think he's doing an excellent job out here with this fuel strategy, because the 24 Keegan Leahy on new tires is only about a second quicker, and you factor in the fact that Logan's on old tires and saving fuel. To only be losing about a second to that 24, the 46 is going to come down pit road. Lap number 104 of 167. I don't know, guys, 62, 63 laps. That's going to be a big ask from that number 46 car. So did they realize that they fell out of the window after that hit? That little bit of aero damage may be affecting the fuel economy, or do they think they can just about stretch this to the end? It's going to be tight on the 46, but we usually talk about, what, 61-ish laps on a run in these cars with these cookie cutters. This might just be right on the outer edge for Clampett to do.
The advantage is he doesn't have to account for any additional laps. This race is going to go 167 laps. The only thing that could happen is we're going to have some run under yellow, and that would even help him out more. So he goes for the 4 tires and fuel. The number's either going to be right, you're going to have a shot at the race win, or if it's not right, you're going to finish a lap down and outside of the top 25. Those are the two possible scenarios right now for Logan Clampett. But a big thing he wants, though, is to just stay on the lead lap. That would help him a lot with working against the lap traffic. Keegan Leahy, a race leader, just now entering turn number 1 up on the outside. You see that 46 of Clampett down low, getting up to speed. Right there at the top of your screen, the white hooded car, that is Keegan Leahy. So Clampett's going to be able to get out in front of him, stay at the tail end of the lead lap, and now he should be good to the end. Curious how much he has to save on this run as well.
He got the wall a little bit at a corner number 2 the last time, did the 24 Keegan Leahy, so we'll see how much that slows him down. But Nick Shelton now in position number 2, 2.5 seconds gain to 10th that lap as Keegan puts a lap on Andrew Fayash the 3rd. So we'll see how this shakes out as we run down the back straightaway. Keegan Leahy continues to lead this thing after Logan Clampett came down onto pit road, and we'll see who starts to pick up some spots and where everything shakes out here with one more pit stop to go for most of these drivers.
Held off on it through that sunken green flag surface. It's a little bit later on in the race than it would suggest, but let's take this opportunity to take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the globe, and in the fast-paced world of eSports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR and many more. Closer to 3/4 of the way through this one from Kansas Speedway as we work lap number 108. Keegan Leahy is your race leader. Amongst the drivers that are all on the same strategy, he's 2.3 seconds in front of Nicholas Shelton, who runs in second. Ray Alfala, third spot. Zach Novak, fourth. And
Scott, Phil Diaz, and Nick Ottinger complete your top 20.
A little bit deeper down the field, Logan Clampett, Mr. Strategies in 21st, the one everyone has his eyes on. Quickest car on track right now due to the new tires. Everyone's sort of in the mid to high 30s. He's currently doing 29. Brad Davies is in 22nd. Casey Kerwin 23rd. Brian Schoenberg 24th. Jarl T in 25th. Joe Letterello, last car on the lead lap, is in 26th. Then you have Rattler, Zelensky, Fayash, and Gilliland round out your top 30. With Corey Vincent, Alex Bergeron, who's having a disappointing night after his second place run last night in the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, with Blake Reynolds and Michael Connie rounding out the 34-car field.
But that's a look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com and sign up today. And a reminder, if you go to iRacing.com/membership, all new memberships are 40% off, and it contains all of the basic content that you need to get your sim racing career on iRacing started today. It means you can get everything from as little as a 3-month subscription for less than $5 all the way up to a 2-year subscription, 40% off. Again, that's valid on new iRacing memberships only. With more information at iRacing.com/membership. But for those of you who already are active on the service, said it earlier, and I'll remind you, if you're tuning in with us live on Facebook, if you share this stream with us live on Facebook, iRacing is going to select one person to get 15 credits. That's enough for a car or track of your choice. All you have to do is share this live stream if you're watching on Facebook. Even if you're joining us on RaceSpot TV or iRacing Live, hop on over there, hit us with a share anyways, and come back and hop in the chat. Love interacting with you guys, but again, a good chance there for some of our active members to get a little bit of swag on the service with 15 credits. All of a sudden, though, we talk a lot about pit strategy. We get through the full field rundown, Tim, and we're nearly at 50 laps to go in this race from Kansas. Things have really accelerated once we've gotten this green flag mojo going, and I'm not sure we're going to see it break because it got good spacing throughout the field, considering how aggressive and insane this race was in the first 50.
Yeah, everybody has found a place to race and found a pace to run right now as Keegan Leahy moves up on Letteriello to put him 1 lap behind the pace in car number 57. And you continue to see that battle. Christian Chalner on the outside of Matt Busa putting on a show. Chris Shearburn is there as well, waiting for something to happen. Shearburn looking to the outside of Busa. Busa going to try to take away that line going down into the corner. Can't get there, but there's your leader. Keegan Leahy continues to run up in front of this field, trying to take away another victory and trying to put the 57 in his rearview mirror. He's been working on this the last couple laps.
Just try to get a little bit extra, find yourself in a good position, and side by side this battle goes now as that 50 water machine is up on the outside of the racetrack, and it looks like it's going to be a completed move. So nice job down low to get on through, and another position will exchange hands. You're watching this three-way battle now between the 36 of Shearburn, who now leads it all in 7th, Challenger in 8th, and Matt Busa in 9th. They were all fighting together before that pit stop cycle, and they're still together on the racetrack right now. You see Busa's got a little bit of damage, and I think he kissed the wall that time. I saw some more sparks, so that's why that right front part of that hood is all pushed up a little bit. He's gotten to the wall a couple of times, and the 78 machine's not giving him any more space than he needs. They're really squeezing each other tight.
They almost made a little bit of a touch through corners number 3 and 4, but very well done by both drivers, showing good respect and a little bit of adequate pace as the 78 of Challenger is going to lead them, that little duo through corners number 1 and 2, just keeping tabs of that number 46 car of Clampett. The pace has dropped off. He's doing 30.3s, 30.4s in that number 46 machine. Compare that to Keegan Leahy, who just did a 30.5 the last trip around the racetrack. So it's close to a second through the first 3 or 4 laps on the new tires, and it's pretty much tapered off to only a few tenths every single lap around this track that 46 car is quicker. So for Logan, he's not going to be making up nearly as much time as he is. Not sure if he's saving fuel. Haven't checked in on board just yet. Gonna have to take a look as he runs down in towards corners number 1 and 2 to see exactly how early that 46 Civic NX Racing and Chaos Crew car is lifting. Doesn't seem to be saving fuel as he runs through 1.
Well, that would suggest that he's maybe on his number, although we looked at the run that he made last time. It was closer to 55 laps. He'd have to pull out about an extra 10 to to be able to get to the end of this race, again, unassisted by any caution flags or anything that would not only obviously allow him to save fuel, but I think if a yellow flag comes out, everybody would just come down pit road. Clampett might have to stay out though, Tim. He hasn't necessarily rocketed through the field. You see him trying to get around the 05 of Ottinger. That would be for 19th position. So the 46 machine, either you stay out, you get yourself out of the bowels, but you're at a complete tire disadvantage and they blow by you, or you swallow your pride, you pit in 20th position. So I don't think the 46 wants a yellow. I think he's made his bet. He's going to have to sleep in it. It's all or nothing on this call.
Yeah, he's going to want this thing to go green to the end of the race. And speaking about long run, Nicholas Shelton closing in on Keegan Leahy late in this run. The number 12 is docked off about a half tenth or so every single lap, and it's 1.5 seconds or just over that between them the last time by. Keegan Leahy comes by complete lap 120. Nick Shelton behind him, and the gap continues to close in. It's now 1.4 seconds between Keegan Leahy and Nick Shelton, so we may have a battle on our hands for the lead sooner rather than later as these guys continue to work around under the green flag.
Busa having now come down to pit road means that we're very clearly inside of the window to get to the end. I don't think anybody questioning 47 laps is a plausible number. The question is, can Clampett stretch that a little bit extra? But now you'll start to see drivers come in for the second pit stop on this green flag run, by far and large the longest green flag run that we've been on this evening. You see Matt Busa having completed his 4 tires and fuel, now blending back out with the racetrack. He lose a lap, he'll have the tire advantage. They go through the same routine as they did, but seemingly wasn't all that long ago.
And it hasn't been that long since they last came down pit road, but that's what happens with these guys doing this sort of short pit stop here, as most drivers staying up out there on the racetrack. We just need to see what that 24 of Keegan Leahy will choose to do, though, with Nick Shelton quickly hounding him down. It was 2/10 the last trip around the racetrack. The 12 machine reeled in, and another 1/10.5 the lap after. So the slip angle driver of Nick Shelton, who's only a couple miles short of winning the race at Vegas a few weeks ago, is looking quick and pacey right now, and he's reeling in the car that's been dominant all night. At the time you'd want to be reeling in the car that's been dominant on all night, coming up to the last round of stops for you.
And that kind of sunk underneath our noses almost there. Shelton was 2.5 seconds behind when we kind of reset off of the pit surfaces, and that's been cut in more than half. You can see Leahy way off into the distance. It's not the first car you're seeing. That's the orange 57 of Joe Lottarello, a lapped car, 23rd. In fact, the first car a lap down and in a lucky dog position. So Shelton lost a half of a second to Leahy, after we were talking about how good he was doing. So Leahy is that second car that you're seeing on the picture towards the top half of the screen as Lottarello goes low. That's the car he's searching for.
Yeah, Keegan comes across the line right here, and Nick Shelton behind him, and status quo that lap, about the same lap times between the two, as Nick Shelton continues to chase down that leader. The 24 of Keegan Leahy is it's getting ready to go time. Some of these drivers going to have to come down onto pit road. The question is when and what lap they decide to head down to get service on their car, and keep an eye on that Logan Clampett car as everybody else continues to pit. He continues to move a little closer to the front. There goes Keegan Leahy to pit road. Your leader's going to come down onto pit road, lights the tires up, trying to get it woe down to pit speed. Keegan Leahy, check that Logan Clampett right now, 15th.
And Shelton lit him up twice, locked it up once, then started rolling again, locked it up right at the cone. So he is not going to try to stay out and mix things out. I think he likes his head-to-head speed against your race leader. So Nicholas Shelton down pit road as well. Final pit stops in the works. We close in under the end of tonight's Kansas 250. This final portion of the program is brought to you by Blue Def Diesel Exhaust Fluid, the #1 selling DEF in America. Race off of pit road. Shelton has a disadvantage here just solely based on where he was positioned on pit road. You see these drivers get back out onto the racetrack there. Keegan Leahy first went out, and then Shelton. They might have both entered a couple of car lengths apart, Randy, but if you're 3 car lengths behind somebody in pit road, that means they're accelerating about 5 seconds before you off of pit road, so that'll hurt the 12 a bit.
That'll hurt a little bit, but I don't think it'll hurt him too much. I think the main thing is, how does he come out here in terms of traffic? And you know what? I think that's where he really loses out, because there are 3 cars between himself, Nicholas Shelton, and Keegan Leahy. So that's going to be, I think, the big talking point right now. But you're definitely right. That 12 car lost a couple seconds on pit road. That the 24 Leahy maybe saved a little bit of fuel and had the shorter stop because of that. Not really sure, but regardless, the 24 really the big benefactor after that green flag pit stop.
Now it's a waiting game, and you hold your breath if you're anybody that's got a shot at a race win or a good finish in this one. We made it through one cycle. Can you make it through another cycle? This racetrack, it very much lent itself to some exciting racing. Closing rate's going to be at an all-time high, and you'll have some drivers like Zach Novak not wanting to come down pit road, wanting to stretch it out as long as they can. A yellow would benefit him because he's assumed the race lead at all of this. Colton Davis pits from second. Taylor Hurst will assume P2. Clampett stays out. He's now up to third position in the 46 car.
And just in front of your leader, Novak, is Novak's going to come down onto pit road, I believe, here. And yes, he will surrender the lead. I was about to say, Bobby Zielinski was about to go a lap down on the racetrack. We talked about that car a little bit earlier being a little used up, but Zielinski getting all that he can out of that 83 car here this evening, the 15 down on pit road and getting service on his race car as he works toward his pit box.
Taylor Hurst as well.
Hurst going to come down as well. Novak in the 15, Hurst, and that should put the 46 to Logan Clampett to the race lead in this one. Trying to go head-to-head with wherever on track Keegan Leahy's ended up. The tire advantage is definitely in Leahy's favor. Clampett right now going halfway down the back straightaway. Leahy is scored in 9th position. He's on the front straightaway, so that is a half of a racetrack, almost a 3/4 of a racetrack advantage for Clampett, who right now is about a second slower per lap. And looking at the timesheets with about 30 or so laps left to go, if you can maintain that speed, you'd catch it. The problem is, those tires aren't going to stay nice and fresh like that for Leahy for long. Those intervals are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. The 24 car's got to work right now at a 20-second deficit.
And that the tires are not going to stay anywhere near that rim. We've seen that a couple times this season, Evan. You have to think back to Vegas when it was the 12 and Nick Shelton, who ended up coming down pit road a little bit early. We saw a number of cars actually do that at Las Vegas. A lot of guys gambling, wanting to do the two-stop strategy when it was the one-stopper was the obvious way to go. And those guys, they're about a second and a half quicker for about 3 to 4 laps. And then it tapers off really quickly to only 3 or 4 tenths per lap. And that's a big, big checkup when you're trying to reel in a half of a lap lead on somebody. So for right now, for the 24 car, he's going to feel really, really quick, but he's going to get brought back down to earth here after just a couple of laps. Now it's just the question is, can that 46 car Logan Clampett hold on to the lead? 15.8 seconds was the gap last trip around the racetrack. Still have a couple of other cars that owe us pit stops, like Ottinger, Casey Kerwin, JRLT, and those 3 have yet to stop.
Still waiting on those drivers to come down pit road, and it is right after that group of 3 that you find Leahy in 4th. He is passing Tienda because Jarl Tienda down pit road this time, leaving Ottinger and Kerwin as the 2 drivers who have yet to come down pit road. Leahy's got a good dent though into that 20-second disadvantage. Just 3 laps later, it's down to 15 seconds. Clampett, A, needs to make sure he's got fuel to the end, and then B, he can start to worry about that interval. The 46 machine might get in a tough spot here, Tim, where he sees that interval closing, but knows that he's going to have to back out of it, almost sacrifice that race lead if it comes down to it to make it to the end. You'd much rather go very slow and just get a top 10 out of it than run out of gas going for the race win and end up down in 32nd position because there's 32 cars still actively on the racetrack.
Before this all started, before we had this green flag run, Logan Clampett was running somewhere within the top 10, bouncing around 5th to 10th place or so once the run got going and once we got some green flag laps in. So if he finishes there, it's status quo pretty much at the end. At least you tried to get up there and win a race. But if we do see that caution flag come out here in the next couple laps, it definitely changes everything else. Ottinger and Kerwin, I believe, come down pit road, so that takes them out of the equation. So now it's Logan Clampett, Keegan Leahy in about 13 seconds or so.
Where the interval sits now, of course, again up at the top of the screen is where you'll see that interval. Is you have to keep a watchful eye with Leahy as he works through the positions, but he is now at the number 2 spot, and you can see that the interval right there in the center, 13.6 seconds, the live gap between the 2, and you can see it get closer and closer with every passing moment. And you can see the intervals by lap, Leahy averaging from 5 to 6 tenths of a second better every single time around. So he's looking pretty good right now with 31 laps to go this time.
It's going to be close. It's going to be really, really close if this thing goes green. I will say, now that the pit stops have happened, the 46 car of Logan Clampett, I don't think he really cares if this race goes green to the end or not. If it goes green, it'll sort of be right on the cusp. I honestly think the 24 Leahy will be able to reel him in, and if it doesn't go green, it means that the caution flies likely with him out in front, and he'll likely be able to come down pit road. But if it goes yellow, he'll want it to happen sooner rather than later, rather than having to deal with a 10 to 15 lap run and wondering if people are going to do 2 tire calls or stay out there on the racetrack trying to hope something happens and pull something off as well. So as they work through, 12.8 seconds to gap, the most recent timing update. So Keegan Lay is still reeling in. Let's see, is Keegan going to fall into the 30s this trip around the racetrack? Yes, he does. 30.1 for Keegan versus a 30.5 for Logan. So the pace is starting to equalize a little bit.
And that's exactly what Clampett wants to see, is this thing balances out anywhere with Leahy less than maybe a couple of seconds off of him, it's over. The other thing to keep in mind is Shelton was closing in on Leahy. That gap got down to at its lowest 1 second. Then we saw Shelton lose half of a second. Well, that little bit on pit road exit that I had mentioned seemed to add a couple more tenths, because right now Leahy is 2 seconds in front of Shelton. That could be the battle for second. It could possibly become the battle for the race win, depending on what happens with Logan Clampett, your pole sitter, who is out in front and trying to stretch this one out to the end. So that's something else to keep in mind. This is not just between those top two. Depending on what happens, Shelton could be right there in the thick of things. He just needs to find a little bit extra. He's not really gaining or losing anything on Leahy at the moment.
We saw Shelton so good late in that run before these two came down pit road, so we'll see how that all shakes out. As you see Christian Chalner on one side of your screen trying to reel in and pick up a couple of spots. Jimmy Mullis on the outside in the Racing Virginia number 27 as they duke it out at corner number 4, and Logan Clampett continuing to lead this thing as they'll come by, and Logan will come across the stripe this time and start lap 141. And when you look back on the scoring pylon with obviously Logan Clampett on the strategy, 9 cars on the lead lap, Chalner being the last one, and Jimmy Mullis battling for position number 8 right now. So not only is the upfront portion of this field changed a little bit, throughout the pack you're seeing some guys trying some different strategies and trying to get a couple of positions up from where they were when this green flag run started.
Lap 141 in the works. Nearly now green flag in this race for 70-some-odd laps. Trying to go all the way to the end of this one. Clampett, Leahy, Shelton, Alfala, Novak. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Only including Shearburn, Pipgrass, Mullis, and Challenger through 9th position are the cars that lead lap. But again, all of that because Clampett's still out in front by 10 seconds. Sturgis going to get his lead lap back soon, and Richardson, Tucker, Hurst, and company. But I think it is something fair to note that this has been a really fantastic race, Randy. As I mentioned, 32 cars still on the lead lap. Blake Reynolds at 33rd is still on track. Conti, again, never officially went to the garage. He hasn't gotten back in that car since the wreck, but the official results would say that nobody has DNF'd in this one.
Yeah, that's basically, I think Conti might be technically a DNF. I think instead of escaping out of the car, he probably just brought it down on towards pit road, got up and walked away from the sim rig. So I think he's pretty much considered DNF'd here. But you're right, for the most part, it's been a relatively clean race. Technically only 9 cars on the lead lap, obviously, because the 46 of Clampett has not come down pit road yet. But if you were to judge that based off of the strategy most people have been doing in regards to the 24 Leahy, most of the field would still be on that lead lap. You factor in a 9-second advantage that the 46 of Logan Clampett has right now. It actually just went down to 8.6 seconds. Last trip around the racetrack, 0.7 of a second for that 24 Keegan Leahy is what he reeled in. And with 20 laps left remaining, Logan cannot afford for Keegan to be reeling him in that quickly. Logan has to find some pace somehow, some way, if he hopes to win this thing, unless this strategy calls to hope for a P2 or a P3.
A P2 or a P3 would be better than the 7th spot that he was running in, but this isn't like he was running in the middle of the pack.
He was in the wall in 1 and 2.
Not the first time he's done that either. Got into the wall, Clampett right there, and that was a pretty good hit. He didn't smack the wall hard, Tim, but he rode along the wall for quite some time, and that's going to really cost him.
Yeah, the rear end got away from him once again, and as you mentioned, that's not the first time we've seen this from the 46 car this evening, but when the rear end got away with him, kind of slapped the wall, and it brought the front end around with it too. We're going to take a look at the replay to see what happened to Logan Clampett going down into the corner, and there it is, just getting sideways and the rear end getting a little bit free, and when the rear end hit the wall, obviously, physics are going to throw the front end back into the wall if you hit it hard enough, and that's what happened there, but he's he's still out in front. He's lost a little bit of time compared to Keegan Leahy and Nick Shelton, but he had been losing time prior to that. But it's almost like we're watching a race at Darlington for some of these guys, Evan, because the right sides are pretty used up on some of these cars if you look throughout the field.
Absolutely looks like that, and with all of the short track stuff we've been seeing the last couple of weeks, I think these guys are kind of used to having some torn up sheet metal on the right hand side of those cars. But you're exactly right, Darlington at the racetrack where you're right up against the wall, and that margin of error, like I talked about at the very top of the race here, is so much smaller. Most racetracks you don't want to, but if you have a slip up going into the corner, you'll be okay. You'll lose time, but you're not going to really get hurt from that. This one, you stand up maybe a half of a car length or so, you slide up 5 feet. That car's hard into the outside wall. Clampett has been able to kind of get back into a rhythm since getting into the wall. 6.2 seconds in front of Leahy at a half a second per lap. The 24 still has a shot at this thing, but he cannot take it easy with some of the lap traffic in between him and Clampett, and there's a lot of it. Overland right there. Lowe, Davis, Gilliland, Scott, Busa, Hurst, Tucker, Richardson, Vincent, and then Logan Clampett. So he's got a lot of work cut out for him.
Thing is, though, is that while he's going to have to get around some of those cars, those lap cars are actually quicker than Logan Clampett on the racetrack right now because they are on new tires. So it's going to be sort of this interesting dynamic. Normally we talk about the leaders getting around lap traffic. Here we have the situation where one of them's having to pass lap traffic and the other one is having to manage getting passed by lap traffic. So it's going to be a sort of an interesting situation as we get closer and closer. Because, for example, car behind of Corey Vincent of your race leader, he's actually been relatively on pace or slightly slower than Logan. So he's not going to be a concern for Logan, but a couple car lengths back from there, Marcus Richardson is lapping 2 to 3 tenths of a lap quicker than that 46 who currently leads this thing. Give it 10 laps, he'll likely be there banging on that rear bumper of the 46 wanting by.
See if this one does have that fantastic Hollywood finish like we expect to see, or if it is going to be a swing either or direction. Still that chance that a yellow could mix things up, but 17 laps to go this time by. Remind you that, as always, a yellow inside of 5 laps to go or less. The pointed or returned, this race would not restart. So realistically, if you don't have a shot at the win now and you want something to shake it up, you got about 12 laps for that to happen, where you got to lock in. Shelton, by the way, has closed in the gap to Leahy to 1.3 seconds. So keep a half eye on the gap between second and third as well.
And that might be a matter of the way they catch traffic. We mentioned a little bit earlier, Randy mentioned this one of Marcus Richardson closing in on the 46 of Clampett to try to unlap himself, but when you look at the other side of it, got some guys passing traffic. Keegan Leahy works through traffic. Nick Shelton might be able to make up some time on that, so keep an eye on that. Ray Alfalo runs in position number 4 right now, and Zach Novak in position number 5, and there's really no challenge there for those positions. And in fact, you try to look back into the top 10, there's really no challenge for any position. Jimmy Mullis gets a little sideways off corner number 4 that last time by, but really no pressure from anybody right now within the top 10 when it comes to positions on the scoring pylon. So we continue to work here, and these guys putting in a nice pace. The one of Richardson now to the inside of Logan Clampett to try to get his lap back and put him into position number 11 and on the lead lap.
Well, he's open for the 24s. Really hit a roadblock here, though, because those lapped cars that I was mentioning are stuck all together right now. The 11 of Colton Davis is going to go high. The 7 of Lowe try to pass him, but Overland's made a couple of looks to try to pass the 11. And look at this now. These guys are all fighting, and it's all in front of Keegan Leahy. He cannot afford to roll out of the gas and Clampett. Look at this move of the 24 machine of Leahy trying to get around Overland in the 47 machine. The Overland entry didn't really move out of the way to give him any space, so the 24 not appreciating that lack of assistance, and Leahy sideways that time off of the corner. This really hurts.
That 47 car, better be careful, because if it was me in that 24, I would think about moving that 47 out of the way. But it's an interesting team dynamic we have, because Logan, he doesn't have any alliances with these cars, I believe, that in this lap traffic. But that 47 of Overland is teammates with Nick Shelton, and you know there's going to be a little bit, if I can help my teammate, I can and I will, coming from the 47 of Chris Overland. And look at the gap. It was 1-point-something seconds, just a lap and some change ago. Now the gap between Leahy and Nick Shelton is down to half a second and closing still. The 24 has yet to clear that yellow car of Overland.
Someone's about to make a race-witted move, just like you get to this point at a race weekend in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. It's a question of brass right now. Does Leahy have it? We're about to find out in a moment.
Things can get rough out there.
The bumper to the back of the 24!
You think you got the brass?
I proved it last season.
That was last year. Now we've got young blood ready to take out the old. Start your engines. It's time to race.
Laps to go from the Kansas Speedway on this 2018 race here from Kansas, race 6 should say, in this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series competition. Clampett is the one we've been watching. 2.3 seconds is the gap. Shelton was closing, guys, and we saw it on the side-by-side. The 12 got up and into the outside wall. It's a mistake we had seen come out of the 46 camp a couple of times, and it's what I think is going to keep Shelton off of Leahy. So here we are, coming to 9 laps to go. I think Leahy's got a shot. 1.9 seconds. He's gotten around some of the lap traffic, but not all of it. You are watching Logan Clampett, though, who's in a lot of traffic in his own right.
There are 5 race cars between Logan Clampett and that second-place car of Keegan Leahy. Leahy moves underneath the 10 of Vincent to put one more behind him. Still got Overland in front of him, or still got the 7 of Ryan Lowe in front of him. Still got a couple of cars there that are in between the two. But Logan Clampett's still a wee bit slower on that strategy. Is it slow enough to get Keegan Leahy up there in battle for it? And oh, by the way, how wide does that Richmond Raceway car get as he is on the apron right now?
Loose. That's it for Clampett. There he is on the inside. The 46 car spins, and Clampett is into the inside wall. 8 laps from completing the call, and he gets into it with lapped cars there, into the outside wall a few times, but that time you'll see the replay. He gets sideways, goes down low, and I think it might have been a little bit of contact. No, nobody touched him. He just got stuck there, Tim, right on the transition from the flat to the banking. He couldn't hang on, and Logan Clampett tried to get a little bit too much out of that car. You go on board with him, no contact, just lost it, spun out down pit road. There's no caution, and Keegan Leahy's your race leader.
He was pitting. That 46 car, he wasn't loose. He was trying to get to pit road, so the 46 car was short on fuel the entire time. It's something we were talking about, the fact he would have gone about 6-7 laps longer in that run than he did in the initial one. And one thing I was worried about is, did they realize the fuel economy strategy a little bit too late in that last run when he only managed 55 laps? Fuel economy is one of those things you have to commit to it early to get the maximum out of it. If you wait too late, you may save a lap and a half. If you do it from the start, you can save 2, 3, maybe even 4 if you really commit. So I think for Logan, he was way too short. And if you're 5 laps short, Evan, I don't know why you ever go for this to save it anyways, because you have to come down pit road for a caution regardless. I think for the 46 car, trying to force it that fuel strategy, I don't see how that makes any sense in the world.
Well, the question is, Tim, how early did that team know that they were not going to be able to get that job done? Because Randy even made the point after the pit stop. He did 55. He'd need to get 65. He was about that 10-lap difference short. I wonder how long Clampett knew that.
I'm sure he knew it when they tried the strategy, because they had to try something different, or at least they thought they had to try something different. And now you were hoping for a caution. You came within 12 laps away from the finish of getting a caution flag, and it didn't happen. And at insult to injury, what happened coming down on pit road, getting into the wall. So Logan Clampett and their team obviously felt like they had to do something different, and that's exactly what they did. It just did not work out. Sometimes you're the windshield, and sometimes you're the bug when it comes to that stuff. You see Jake Sturgis on your screen. Great top 10 run for the 41 car in position number 8, but we're coming down to the end of this thing. Nick Shelton is closing back in. He lost some time in lap traffic, Evan, and he lost, I think, just a little bit too much. He was a few car lengths back at one point from Keegan Leahy as they went through traffic, and now it's just under 2 seconds. He's gaining time, but I think he's going to run out of laps as he comes out of corner number 4, does Nick Shelton, trying to catch Keegan Leahy. Not a ton of traffic in between them, but there's a lot of time.
We saw Clampett spin out on his own, trying to get down pit road. Got sideways on the apron, erected into the inside wall onto pit road. No yellow. He's gotten back out on track in 24th, and then Shelton might be kicking himself over getting into the outside wall when that gap got down to as low as just 0.4 of a second, Randy, just about 5 laps ago.
That's unfortunate, isn't it? That just that one little mistake might cost Nick Shelton once again. in this championship, and he may even lose that second spot because we know that there's no team order that at Slip Angle Motorsports, and the Two Machine of Ray Alfala very close to the rear of that number 12 car. You see him running the bottom groove through 1 and 2, actually reeled in that 12 a lot. Last couple laps, he's been about 3 to 4 tenths of a second quicker. So Shelton, he may lose second once again. I believe it was third out at Vegas when he had a chance to win it late. And I think he's going to fall to P3 again as they're getting ready to come to the white.
A foul up the inside of the racetrack, side by side for P2. He'll crowd him off at the quarter, and Ray Alfala is going to get the second position with 1 lap left to go from the Kansas Speedway. No hopes of catching Leahy. That's a 2-second difference. The racetrack not necessarily clear in front of the 24, but isn't in any sort of position to force himself to make a move. And he'll cruise off into 3 and 4. Didn't need the flair for the dramatic to try to mix it up. He had confidence in his race car. So good all night long. And Keegan Leahy going to be the second multi-time winner of the year. Leahy, your winner from Kansas in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. Second win on the season, accompanying a win from Phoenix earlier this year.
And another strong run by Ray Alfala coming home in second. That's what championship seasons are made of. Coming home once again with a runner-up finish, another top 5 run in this 2018 campaign. Nick Shelton, I'm sure he was having flashbacks, Evan, from back in Vegas when he almost had that victory, and he saw Ray Alfala come up behind him, and he saw it once again, only this time it was for P2. Novak and Shearburn, once again, top 5 finish, just at the end of it, comes up and in there, but a little congratulations from Ray Alfala to Keegan Leahy, as Leahy will come down and I'm sure will celebrate in that VRS number 24.
He's got a little bit of fun that he wants to get out here with the 24 machine as he'll swing it around on the front straightaway and get to the celebration. He'll stop right there on the front, collect the flag, and head off to do some burnouts here. You see the 83 Zelensky also coming over and congratulating him, but the driver burning it down is Keegan Leahy. He is your race winner tonight from the Kansas Speedway. Second win for him on the year. Impressive run, and you saw Alfala, obviously, Randy, going up and giving him congratulations. If you're Ray, nothing to complain about losing on here tonight in the number 2 spot in the points. Yes, Leahy will close it in just a tad bit, but Alfala adds more to his championship lead tonight, follows up a win with a P2, so a lot to be happy with for all of those drivers on the podium tonight.
Well, it's important to remember that the VRS-sponsored cars, Keegan Leahy, Ray Alfala, as well as Bobby Zelensky, they're all sort of allied, sort of pseudo-teammates. I don't think they're technically teammates. I don't know exactly the details of the alliance between Phenom and Slip Angle, but they know each other, work together at the virtual racing school, putting out data packs and stuff. So there is some camaraderie there, even though they aren't technically teammates.
You can see the camaraderie as congratulations aplenty for Keegan Leahy. He is your race winner tonight from round 6 on the evening. Let's take a look top to bottom at your RaceSpot TV full race results for this one. Keegan Leahy gets the job done with the trip to victory lane. Ray Alfala second, Nicholas Shelton third, Zach Novak and Chris Shearburn your top 5 finishers. We hope to be trackside with them in just a little bit on the RaceSpot TV post-race show. Christian Challenger just misses out on a microphone in his face. He'll be able to go home early tonight with a solid P6 result. Brendan Pipgrass gets 7th. Jake Sturgis, quiet, but all the way up 25 spots to get a P8 out of this one. Jimmy Mullis is 9th, and Taylor Hurst rounds out your top 10.
Nolan Scott just missing out on a top 10 finish. He'll come home in position number 11. Chris Overland in at 12th. Marcus Richardson 13th. Ryan Lowe and Casey Tucker complete your top 15. You look back to 16th place. It's Matt Busa and Colton Davis, who had a great run to start this thing. He finishes in 17th. Last driver on the lead lap. Nick Ottinger won back. Casey Kerwin won back. And the show, Brian Schoenberg wrapping up your top 20.
Michael Guest falls 12 down to 21st, with the 22nd spot being taken by Brad Davies, another driver we saw up front early, but just fell off. Joe Letterello finishes 23rd. Bobby Zelensky not having the night he would have wanted. He comes home in 24th. Jarl Tien 25th. Phil Diaz, after phenomenal qualifying from him, just can't put it together. He comes home 26th. Logan Clampett, after the bad strategy call and not getting the pit entry anywhere near correct, finishes 1 lap down in 27th. David Rattler, Andrew Fayash, and Corey Vincent round out your top 30, with Gilliland, Bergeron, Reynolds, and Conti rounding out the 34 car field tonight.
That's how they came home tonight from Kansas. 32 cars were still in it. At the end, 33 of them were on track. It was a great night of action, and it was capped off by Keegan Leahy getting his second checkered flag on the season. We'll take this opportunity to step aside. You've been watching the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series at RaceSpot TV. When we come back, the post-race show from Kansas.
Hi, I'm Marcus Richardson, driver of the #1 Richmond Raceway Toyota Camry, and you're watching iRacing Live.
Section PU 402, row 41.
Jimmy Johnson, the fastest gun in the West.
Section 104, row 4.
Blaney got his first win.
Section 25, row 3.
What a year for Bubba.
Section O, row 25.
Keselowski's gonna win at Talladega.
Section 156, row 4.
Kurt Busch to the lead on the backstretch.
Section 233, row 1.
Martin Truex Jr. wins.
You get a seat, but we doubt you'll ever use it. Grab your seats at NASCAR.com/tickets today.
And welcome back live to the Kansas Speedway. RaceSpot TV's continuing coverage of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series continuing tonight, now through 6 races on the 2018 campaign. Happy that you're sticking with us for post-race action. Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, along with Randy Cheneth. And downstairs, our producer, Hugo Louise, with you this evening. Keegan Leahy going to be the one that gets the job done in this one. Tim, wasn't a surefire one. We knew the 24 was fast, but this one came down to those final 10 laps when Clampett couldn't get that little bit extra he needed on fuel.
Yeah, a couple of these teams on pins and needles at the end of it. It didn't work out for Logan Clampett, but Keegan Leahy solid and fast all night long, coming home with another victory, his second on the season, and solidifying himself as a contender for this championship in 2018.
He'll jump up to second in the championship with his second win on 2018. Let's go trackside and chat with the driver of the number 24 machine. Keegan Leahy is your race winner tonight for the Kansas Speedway. Keegan, congratulations on the win. You guys started close to the front in P10, but I mean, that car was a rocket ship. A couple of those cautions and restarts looked like they were slowing you down a bit, but what was it about that race car that was so good cutting through the traffic to get you up front in the first place?
Evan, thanks so much, man. That was a crazy race. I was like, well, if I could bite my nails, I would, but my hands were pretty much glued to the steering wheel. I can hardly open them now. Like I was just clamped onto it for the whole race. But yeah, like the car was amazing. I knew it was going to be okay, but like this track's so hard to drive, man. Like, and on this build, it's really hard to get the car set up for the long run, and you kind of have to like choose whether you want some short run or long run. So that's why I had some issues on the restarts and the short run, but had it really set up well for the long run and especially the middle run, and that's where it shined. And yeah, thankfully it was just enough. I thought I was going to have an issue there with Nick Shelton coming up through the field really quickly right at the end. I had a little bit of damage. I don't know if you caught me stuffing the wall, but I got into it about lap 80. And yeah, we brought it home somehow.
We saw a couple of guys getting up into the wall, and I don't think we should really be surprised about that because it's just how this Kansas Speedway race is. Obviously, the top of the racetrack is where you want to be, and that margin of error is so thin. One small mistake, you're up and into the outside wall. But this racetrack looked very competitive, and 10th place isn't that far back to come from, but it definitely looked like the ability to stretch out that line and work the bottom and kind of find a middle groove there, get the best of both worlds was really something that helped you get to the field. We saw fantastic stuff in those opening 50.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point about that because a couple of years ago, this was by far the worst track on the sim, and kudos to iRacing. They put a really good dynamic track model out with the rubber and the tire heat and everything building up in the racetrack, and that's the reason we saw such a really good race, and it was just as fun to drive it.
Talk about Logan Clampett in this one. He was in there with you guys, mixing it up in the top 10, but obviously made a decision to himself that he was not going to have a race car to challenge you mano-a-mano. So he's the lone driver who went for that differing pit strategy, and he came up about 9 laps short, wrecked it trying to come down pit road, and his fast race car ends up with a finish outside of the top 25 in this race. How well were you able to follow that? What was the team telling you, and did you think that he was going to be able to make it to the end, or did you guys kind of surmise that it wasn't going to happen and you guys should be able to get all the way up to the front and your primary concern would have been Shelton behind you?
Hey, we all were trying to do it too. We all filled it up on that restart because we thought we were going to be able to maybe run the bottom and try to save some fuel a bit. By lap 30 or something, I realized it was going to take a lot more saving than what I was doing to make it. And really, it's really cool to see Clamp go for it. He took a really big risk and he went for it, and that takes a special kind of driver to go for that. But I went for the safe route. I thought, hey, worst case scenario, I'll be top 10 and take home some really good points. And I didn't want to take the risk. Really cool that he did again, but that wasn't for me.
Well, the good news is when you got a fast race car, sometimes you can just rely on that equipment a little bit. Just do your race, and you guys executed it very well. A lot of times they're late. Nick was catching up to you and got into the wall. I think it got as close as nearly half a second there at the very end. So second win for you guys on 2018 with the absence of Luza. You'll jump up to second in the championship standings. A win at Phoenix, rather. A win here at Kansas almost halfway through the regular season. You guys are right in the mix. How's it feel?
It feels amazing. Again, I said this in a few interviews. I can't believe that I'm so competitive already. I think it's partly this build. I just love tuning these cars. I love driving them, and I'm a little bit worried. And I think 2 races from now we'll be on probably completely new physics. So hopefully I can get my hands around it. But yeah, it's it's going really well right now, and I'm really happy about it.
Keep on going, Charlotte. In 2 weeks' time, can the magic continue there for you?
I think so. I think it's going to be a really similar racetrack, similar setup, and I think I'll be up front there. That's again, that's the last race of this build, so I'm going to try to make the most of it.
It'll be a fun little bit of an experimentation period after that, and we'll of course be looking forward to Michigan, the next race following that one. But it was a long, hard-fought night, a lot of green flag action, so I know you were tensed up for a lot of it. So we'll let you get out of here, relax, celebrate the win. But as always, sponsors and everybody who makes it happen for you.
Yeah, let me say thank you so much to Virtual Racing School for being on the car. We got a lot of big plans for the service coming up. I think we're trying to get some dirt data packs coming out shortly. A lot of people have been requesting that, so hopefully those turn out really well and people like it.
The race winner tonight for the Kansas Speedway, Keegan Leahy, second on the year for him. Keegan, we appreciate the time as always. Congratulations, sir, and best of luck going forward. You guys are killing it so far.
Thanks so much, Evan.
Second on the year for him. He joins Ryan Luza as the other multi-time winner on 2018. It was almost another win for Ray Alfala, though. Came within 1.8 seconds of this one. Kind of flew under the radar late. All of this about Leahy, Shelton, and Clampett. Well, the number 2 car ends up slotted into second tonight. Trackside with him is Tim.
Yeah, Ray Alfala, we get to do this again for a second consecutive week, but it's position number 2. You gave Nick a little bit of deja vu, like we saw at Vegas a couple of weeks ago, passing him late in the race. Talk about the late race charge towards the front.
Yeah, good night for Virtual Racing School 1-2. I think that might be our first 1-2. And it was just kind of a weird race. You know, this is only the second race we've run at Kansas. First one being back in 2013. And I was out pretty early in a wreck in that one, and the cars drove way different. We didn't have dynamic track surface or anything back then, so This race, I was just wondering if the bottom would come in, and we knew the high line was the place to be, as far as the hot lap would go, but the bottom would come in later in the run at weird times, and it was just kind of all over the place, and I felt like I gave up a lot of time just in the middle run, and I couldn't quite make it back up at the end. I was pretty surprised to be, as close as I was there at the end, but overall, a good run. I think we have now like 3 or 4 consecutive top 3, so we'll take it.
And this season, 6 races so far, 1 win and 4 top 5 finishes. You look at 2/3 of those races, you're up there in the top 5, and obviously you've got the point lead. So far, so good on this season. Are you happy so far with what you had accomplished?
Yeah, I think the goal, everybody's goal is to make the playoffs, and we go based on points. So, I think we're pretty comfortable inside the top 8 in points of this. Right now, at this point in the season. So, we're at this point we're just waiting on to see what the next physics update is. So we have, I think, Charlotte remaining on the current tire, and then we'll get an update, and we'll see what happens.
You mentioned Charlotte. Keegan now has 2 wins. Ryan has 2 wins. Is the 2 going to get win number 2 at Charlotte?
Well, maybe we won there last year, so we'll go out there, and I like Charlotte a lot more than I like Kansas. I'm not a very big fan of this track, mostly because you run up by the wall all the time, and if I wish the bottom would work sooner into a run to make it a lot more fun. But Charlotte is a track where I used to struggle at, but I've turned that around, and we'll see if we can get win number 2.
VRS on this race car. Who else makes it happen for you?
Yeah, everybody on Slip Angle Motorsports. Bobby Zelensky, again, had a tough race, got involved in a wreck. He makes some really fast cars. And shout out to, the rest of the Slip Angle guys. They all had really good runs, and, they fought some adversity here and there. And thanks to Chris Henney and Sal Frasetto and Liam Brotherton up on the box. And we'll see you guys at Charlotte.
There's Ray Alfala, another top 5 finish, coming home runner-up here this evening at the Kansas Speedway. And I believe Randy has caught up with Nicholas Shelton, another great top 5 run for the newcomer to the series.
Yeah, I'm stood by with the number 12 car. Nicholas, this is the second time in a few races we've seen you be in a good position late and ended up losing a couple spots. Happened in Vegas. You were a little bit shy, but ended up winning a race here tonight. Mistake late got you a bit of damage, and your teammate Ray ended up getting by you. What do you think it is that you're missing, being able to maybe put one of these races together? Because you seem to be able to miss out. You run really well, but you end up a little bit short, making a mistake late on in the run.
I think what it is the in-race adjustments. I need to be better on that. I didn't really do anything to the car because it felt fine. But the last run, I decided to try a little bit of a different driving style, and it tore the rear tires off of it. One of the rear tires, I don't know which one, but it tore it right off of it, and I was so loose at the end, I couldn't drive it. So if I'd have tightened it up, I would have been fine. I think I could have won the race.
And there was a couple drivers tonight that were definitely looking at fuel as a potential game that they could play. Logan Clampett, of course, tried to make it on one stop with about 7 or so laps short. Keegan Leahy also mentioned that when they sort of looked at the pit window, he sort of initially was saving a bit of gas as well. Was it something that was even on your guys' radar at Slip Angle, or were you pretty much not even worried about it and kind of immediately shrugged that strategy aside?
I mean, you think about it, but once kind of looked at it, and we just couldn't make it on fuel, so we did the other strategy, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's just what we did.
Couple weeks, longest race of the season happening at Charlotte. Looking forward to it?
Yeah, because I think our cars are getting better every week. I think we're getting faster as a team. I think we're making a little bit of gains on them, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you for joining us, Nick. Before we let you go, who gets it done for that number 12 It's a Slip Angle machine?
Well, I'd like to thank everybody. I think Zelensky and everybody that worked on the setup. I'd like to thank Ford Entertainment Group for being on the car. And that's pretty much it.
Well, so there he was, driver of the number 12 car. Nick Shelton comes home third tonight. I believe Tim has stood by with the man who dominated this race early. Unfortunately, didn't do so late. The 15 is Zach Novak.
Yeah, led a lot of laps here this evening. Comes home in position number 4. Zach, let's talk about your night at the Kansas Speedway. I'm sure you're not happy with position number 4, but it's a top 5 run for you.
Yeah, I'd say I'm happy overall. We came into this race with no top 5s so far, but we've had top 5 cars every race. So I'm happy to finally break through, kind of at least postpone the sophomore slump that they call it. So we had a really, really good car tonight. Struggled on the long run a little bit, but once we got the adjustments in it, it really wasn't that bad. I think we still had a shot at the win. If we just didn't have a few mess ups there in the last 2 runs. So all in all, really good job by my crew chief Logan Sheets for just helping me out on top of the box all night, making sure I felt good on the long runs and the short runs. And big shout out to Brendan Cobbinger as well. He really helped me stay calm there those last 2 runs, and brought it home 4th.
We talk about the Kansas Speedway not being on the schedule for a couple of years, and then we have a long green flag run to the end of the race. Was pit strategy a question throughout the night, and how many times did the call change to come down pit road under that green flag run?
Yeah, we were expecting to do longer runs than 40s, which is what we did at the end there, something like 40s. We were expecting to do 50s, 55 lap runs, and we put full fuel in it at the start of that long run at the end. So we were really, really loose on the long run, and yeah, we were expecting to go just 1 stop, but instead we split it into 2, and obviously that was the better strategy. So yeah, that's just, shout out to Logan Sheets for, like I said, just helping out on top of the box, making sure we made the right call there.
Now you're sitting unofficially before the drop 16th in the point standings. Does this change the momentum and looking forward to the playoffs? Obviously that's where you want to beat it, but does it change the momentum with a top 5 run here tonight?
I really hope so. We've had top 5 cars every week, and I think we're good enough to make the chase again this year. Obviously we made it last year and might have had a shot at the championship. Could have broke through at Dover, but the cars have been really, really solid. And, we just got to put these races together. We've struggled to do that, mistakes on pit road, or you're just getting caught in bad situations. So hopefully we can get the races put together the way we want them to and keep clicking off top 5s and top 10s.
Got a sharp-looking race car. Who's on the side of it?
Yeah, big shout out to Sim Speed Shop for hopping on the car for this whole season. They were originally on the car for 3 races this year, but decided to extend that for the full season, and I'm really excited to be working with them. If you need button boxes or sim appliances, go to them. They're doing an awesome job, and I can't thank them enough for helping me out this year. Also, big shout out to Loco Toco Designs for making the car look good. I've never ran white and orange before, but I will say it's grown on me. I really like it. So thanks to them, and really huge shout out to all my teammates at Lockdown Racing. Matt and Taylor have really, really tried hard this year on making the cars go fast, and then everybody else, Jimmy, Andrew, David, all the guys behind the scenes, the support staff, especially the guys that helped me out on the race, like I said before, Logan and Brandon. It's really a group effort over here at Lockdown Racing, and I'm really glad that we finally got some results to show for it.
And a result in a top 5 finish. Zach Novak finishes in position number 4. He's shown speed all season long, and great to see him finally crack the top 5 and get a finish that's indicative of where he's been running, Randy. And speaking about a guy that's been in the top 5 a couple of times, I believe this is his second top 5 of the season. You're down there with Chris Shearburn.
Yeah, the 36 car has been having a good run, and Chris not really being able to get it. I think your top 5 you had earlier in the season, you had to come through the field as well. Qualified 22nd tonight, you end up 5th. What happened to your qualifying that put you so far down the field and made the night so tough on you?
I wish I knew. That's kind of pretty much the theme for the last couple of years is miss it in qualifying a little bit and make it hard on myself. I'm not really sure what lap felt pretty good. It just wasn't quite fast enough to get up there a little bit further.
You guys at Phenom are kind of on another level right now when Luza ends up turning up. He's, of course, one of the quickest drivers late in the run. Keegan tonight, I mean, we saw Zach Novak. He's, of course, not one he runs at lockdown, but he dominated the early phase of the race. But once we got about 20, 30 laps into a run, Keegan was just 4, 5, 6 tenths quicker than Novak lap on lap. We saw that before that last caution about 30 laps in, where he reeled in something like 3 seconds and about 10 laps. And, well, he ended up getting that race lead and basically blitzed away from the field in that long run that we had, about 130 some odd laps we ran under green. What is it you guys are doing at Phenom that makes you so fast late on in the run? Is it something in the set, or is it just the way you guys are approaching the cars and driving them?
To be honest, I'm not really sure, because me and Keegan actually ran different setups tonight. So I don't really know what it is. I honestly think most of the guys in this field probably have similar setups. I don't think there's anything radical that are giving anybody major advantages. The car is pretty difficult to drive, especially on long runs. So it takes quite a bit of patience, I guess is the best word, and throttle control to keep it underneath you for a full fuel run. That's been the biggest thing, is we're able to do full fuel runs now, and I think it's kind of separated the field out a little bit more.
Well, congratulations on the top 5 finish. He puts 2 of you guys in the top 5, and who gets it done on that 36 car?
I want to thank again at Phenom Racing Team, all of his work on the setups and everything, and Sim Marketing Solutions for being on the car. Picked them up after the top 5 there at Vegas. Happy to have them on board. But that's pretty much it. Like I said, the biggest shout out would be go to Keegan for all his work on the setups.
Well, there he is, number 36, Chris Shearburn from Phenom Racing Team. And, well, Evan, me and Tim are done doing all the heavy lifting. Your break is over. Time to close this thing out.
Well, I'll tell you what, big thanks as always to our top 5 for giving us some time here post-race and chatting with us. This was a really fun race. I think Kansas, we talked about it right off of the get-go, Randy, one of those unique racetracks that can definitely provide some great racing. I think we absolutely saw that. Great racing early, couple of fun race starts, long green flag runs late, some pit strategy, and a 2-time race winner on the year. I think Keegan Leahy stuck to his cards, and I think the decision to not make that call, and it really was a gamble for Logan Clampett tonight. You might see a couple of cars here and there tried. He was the only one who really committed to it. Maybe wasn't the best idea. You heard the other drivers were thinking about it, decided it wasn't going to be the best idea, but he went for it. Leahy just fell back on, hey, I've got a fast race car, I'm going to stick to my game, and it was a great drive by the 34 car with a lot of late race adversity from Shelton getting all over him to be able to stay calm, not make those mistakes, and get it done.
Yeah, talking about the track, I think a lot of people pleasantly surprised with the sort of racing we saw tonight, because as the drivers said in the past, before the adaptive race surface, this racetrack at Kansas just was not very good on the sim, didn't provide the best racing, really was just everyone run up alongside the wall and no one could ever make anything stick on the bottom. But with the track updates we've had, it's really put on a very good show tonight. As far as strategy goes, we've seen that a couple times this season where one person or a group of people just go for a really weird strategy but don't quite commit to it correctly. We saw that from Logan tonight. For some reason thinking maybe he was praying for a caution is the only thing I can surmise, but even then I don't think that was necessarily worth gambling an entire night on a fuel strategy like that. We saw that at Vegas as well, with people coming down and opting to go for a 2-stopper when you can easily make it on one. So some of these guys maybe have to do a little bit of work with those who are on top of the box, talk about strategy a little bit more, and really rein in on that side, because I think there's a number of drivers in this series that are throwing away good results just based on bad calls on the box.
Live points going up on a straight right now, Tim. Everybody's taking a look. This win for Leahy jumps him up into the number 2 spot. Losing on here tonight, so he will stay stationary at 185. Again, everybody on that screen, their objective, stay on that top 10 list to be able to fight into the playoffs. One more race left on this build that really seemed to be on the minds of all the drivers post-race in this one. Longest one of the season, 2 weeks' time when we go to Charlotte.
And I'm sure we're going to see some long green flag runs in that as well. We've seen Vegas with a lot of green flag laps. We saw here this evening with a lot of green flag laps, and it's changed the strategy a little bit. But when you look at those point standings, obviously there is one drop before we make that playoff cutoff. Ryan Luza's drop is now a 0. Michael Conti's drop is 4 or 5 points, whatever he gained here tonight. He sits in 6th place in the standings. So while these guys in front of him, as long as they don't have a bad race or miss a race between now and the cutoff, Conti and Luza don't really have a whole lot of points to drop. So when you look at those standings, there's going to be some changes, but as long as Conti, Luza, and a couple of those others can consistently keep up some great runs, they're probably going to be in the contention, but there's some movers and some shakers. Chalmers had a couple of really good runs the last 2 races. Obviously, Ray Alfala's consistent. I don't think even at this point you can really choose a favorite for the championship because a lot of those guys up there are so good, and with the summer stretch, they're hitting their stride. And, oh, by the way, as you mentioned, new build coming up after Charlotte, so that's going to change things too.
Look at the likes of Alfala, Shelton don't win the race tonight, but they come home right there 2nd and 3rd to keep themselves up in the conversation. That's just how tight this season is going to be all the way down to the wire, I'm sure. That being said, round number 6 falls into our rearview mirror, and that does it for us here tonight from the Kansas Speedway. I want to say a special thanks to everybody behind the scenes who makes all of this possible on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. East Vanabalo for the camera angles, Simon Grossman, Kevin Papey, their team on the broadcast CG. Graphics by Andy Werder, Will Vincent, Hugo Luis, Joe Adamson, Cisco Scaramouche, everybody else behind the scenes at RaceSpot TV and iRacing. And, of course, for your broadcast team tonight, for myself, Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth, and our director, Hugo Luis, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Keegan Leahy. 2 wins on 2018 for the 2034 as he moves into 2nd in the overall points. We'll step aside, have 1 week off as always, and we will return for the next race, round 7, coming at you Tuesday, May the 22nd from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. That race and every race of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series going to be found right here on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. Until next time, good night from Kansas.